Jada Maxwell is suing her sister, Valastasia Maxwell, for unauthorized bank account charges and property damage.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Hello, Judge. Case 2191, Maxwell versus Maxwell.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Miss Maxwell, this is your sister.
Correct.
Older, younger?
Younger.
The two of you decided to take an apartment together.
Correct.
When was that?
August 27th of 2021.
Were you both on the lease?
No, ma'am, just me.
How long did you live together?
It was about 6 to 7 months.
When did your sister leave? What month?
She left at the end of June of 2022.
June of?
2022.
Miss Maxwell, was it your arrangement that you would split the rent?
No. I would pay a portion of the rent, not split it even.
Well, tell me what a portion was.
The first month I stayed there, which was September only, I didn't pay anything. In October through November, $200, and then after that it was $400.
Well, how much was the rent?
$950, I believe.
And how many of you lived in the apartment?
Just us two.
Well, why weren't you paying half the rent?
I slept on a couch.
Oh, is that correct?
That is correct, Your Honor, except for the agreement. The agreement was that she would keep the apartment clean and pay half the rent and utilities.
Well, why would she pay half the rent if you get the bedroom?
It was her agreement. That was just...
No, I'm just saying, that doesn't sound reasonable to me. If she got the couch and you got the bedroom, why would she pay the utilities and half the rent?
Well, it wasn't... The rent itself was, like, she gave me what she could, but that was just our agreement. I bought the couch big enough so that she would be able to use it.
Nonsense. Okay, this is what the case is about. You claim that she stopped paying any money towards the apartment and you threw her out. And when she left, she damaged some property, and then she charged some money on either your credit card or a debit card.
My debit card.
Did you ever give her your debit card?
There was only one time when I handed her with permission to use the credit card at a gas station.
That's not true.
You had a physical debit card?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, and the one time that you let her use it, I want you to tell me when that was and what that was for.
It was within the time period of her living in the apartment. We were at a gas station and I was filling up. She went inside the gas station to purchase something because she didn't have money at the time, and that was it. That was the only time that I recall her ever giving her permission to use my card.
Okay. She moved out of the apartment in June of 2022, and I understand it was not an amicable process, and the police were called.
Correct.
Who called the police?
I did.
Why?
My dad gave me advice, and he said that I should call the non-emergency escort so that they can watch her, make sure that she actually leaves when she was asked.
And what day in June was this?
I do not recall the date.
You don't have a police report or a number?
Not for that. They didn't give me a police report for that.
Did they give you a police report for something else?
I have the police report for the fraud.
Oh, I'd like to see that.
Yes, Your Honor.
Because it is your claim that you used the information from your debit card and withdrew a lot of money from your debit card.
Correct.
So you reported this to the police on August 25th.
24th.
It says reported
Okay.
8/25. How much money did she take out of the account?
At the time of that, it was only estimated about 10, but once the July statement came out, I was able to add up more, and it was nearly 14, 15 grand.
May I see it, please? How did you get her banking information?
I had to call them.
Shh. How did you get her banking information?
I don't have her bank information.
Well, you took money out of her account. You acknowledge you took money out of her account.
I only took money out when she gave me permission.
No. You acknowledge that you took money out of the account. I've read your answer. How did you get her account information?
She gave me her card on multiple occasions.
You mean after you moved out, she gave you her card?
No.
Shh.
Yes.
Do you understand? You're not going to end up well here. Do you understand that? Because if she called the police to watch you, to escort you out of the house, there is no question that she did not thereafter give you permission to use her credit card or her debit card. That doesn't make sense.
She did.
Do you understand the chronology of what I'm saying to you?
Yes, Your Honor.
So if I were to believe you, the only time you used her credit card is when you were still there. And that was prior to June of 2022.
That's incorrect.
My grandmother passed away in August August 9th of 2021, and she was my legal guardian to the age of 18, so I was under her account as a beneficiary, so when she passed, I got the money.
Jada Maxwell claims her sister, Valastasia Maxwell, wrongfully took money from her bank account and damaged her property.
There is no question that she did not thereafter give you permission to use her credit card or her debit card. That doesn't make sense.
She
Do
did.
you understand? Do you understand the chronology of what I'm saying to you?
Yes, Your Honor.
So if I were to believe you, the only time you used her credit card is when you were still there, and that was prior to June of 2022.
That's incorrect.
Just a second. So you're telling me that after she called the police to escort you out of the apartment, she still gave you permission to use her card?
Yes, Your Honor. I still went over to her apartment until July 15th.
For what?
I had my stuff there that
Just to gather your things.
and she let me use her car multiple occasions to get some of the furniture that she let me have, and she told me that I can use her card.
When was the last time you visited with your sister? July what?
July 15th.
And when was the last time you used her card?
July 16th.
What did you use her card for, July 16th?
Rent.
Between what periods of time did you use her card? Give me the dates.
Since September of 2021 until July 16th.
September of 21. And what was it for in September?
She would send me to the store, or if I was already at the store in her car, she would tell me to use her card or something like that. She would pay me to
How
get
much
stuff.
did you spend on her card just for you? Just for you, not for joint, not send it to the store, here's my card.
I have it here.
Tell me how much you spent on you.
I'm not sure of the exact amount.
Did the police contact you with regard to the fraud?
No.
They never did?
No.
The police report, do you name your sister as the person who stole your money?
Yes, Your Honor. The bank told me,
No, don't tell me what the bank told you. Bank doesn't tell you anything. Would you show me here, maybe I'm missing it, where you report the person who took the money out of your account?
that is the only document when I went down to the station that they gave me. When I went to actually make the file, she just asked me a couple questions, who I thought
No,
it was.
don't tell me what somebody else asked you.
Yes, Your Honor.
Did you report to the police that it was your sister who fraudulently took your money?
I did, but the police eventually, they cut it off because I was going to pursue small claims. They told me that they are no longer
Oh,
needed.
small claims. Why were you going to pursue small claims? How much money do you? How much money does she have? Miss Maxwell, let's get it together. Let's get it all together. Okay? You were not going to pursue small claims because you knew that in small claims you would end up with zero. You knew that.
Time I didn't understand what everything meant, which is why I tried calling a bunch of people, and I spoke to
No, I just want to know why, at this point, because the bank gave you back some money.
Correct.
How much money did the bank give you back?
I have it here. It was about $4,900, nearly $5,000.
Okay, and they gave you back almost $5,000. I'd like to see the communication with the bank. With the bank as to, I mean, if you are alleging fraud,
Right.
if you're alleging fraud, and you say that you had all of this money taken out of your account,
Correct.
okay, then there's no reason why the bank, if you were alleging fraud, and they found that there was fraud, why wouldn't they return all the money?
Because they have a policy that within the 3 months, they can only go up to the first 3 months, and because I didn't realize sooner, they can only go up to that 3 months. So they were only able to give me back within the transactions within those 3 months.
Is this a savings account or a checking account?
It was beneficiary.
What is that?
When somebody passed and you get money.
Explain that to me. I don't understand what beneficiary account is.
My grandmother passed away in August 9th of 2021. and she was my legal guardian to the age of 18, so I was under her account as a beneficiary. So when she passed, I got the money.
So you were living with your grandmother?
Correct.
Okay. And what was the benefit package?
What do you mean?
How much did you get as a beneficiary?
It was about 50 grand.
On what date?
I'm not sure when it was processed, but it was opened. Payment started of October of 2021. Or transaction
I don't
started.
understand what a beneficiary account is. Who paid the money? Who paid this $50,000?
My grandmother, she would put money in there so that if something were to happen to her, the money would go to me or whoever she listed.
Your Honor, it's a type of savings account. In simple words, a beneficiary bank account is a type of savings account in which the funds are transferred to somebody else after the account owner passes away, directly to the beneficiary.
Okay, this had nothing to do with you receiving benefits through your grandmother.
No.
This is an account that your grandmother set up for you.
Correct.
Now, is that grandmother also her grandmother?
Yes, Your Honor.
Did you have a relationship with your grandmother?
Yes, I did.
Did she only set up the one account?
I'm not sure, but I wasn't the only one that received money.
What about you?
Nothing.
Okay, so how much is left in that account now?
The account is closed out
By whom?
at the bank. After a certain, once it goes under a certain amount, they send you a check with the rest of the money.
How much did they send you a check for?
It was about $200.
Well, who spent the $50,000?
I made transactions throughout the time period as well.
Okay. What did you buy with $50,000?
I just basically used it.
What does that mean?
I wasn't responsible with it. I'll be honest about that.
Did you know that your sister had this $50,000 amount of money?
I didn't know she had that much, no.
Did you know she had any?
Yeah.
Did you know where it came from?
Yes.
You have here July total $3,148.14. What does that number represent?
All transactions that were confirmed to be her added up total.
You can't use her credit card after you're not speaking to your sister.
Jada Maxwell has accused her sister, Valastasia Maxwell, of taking money from her bank account and damaging her property.
Now, what did you buy with $50,000?
I just basically used it.
What does that mean?
I wasn't responsible with it. I'll be honest about that.
Did you know that your sister had this $50,000 amount of money?
I didn't know she had that much, no.
Did you know she had any?
Yeah.
Did you know where it came from?
Yes.
Are you working?
Yes.
What kind of work do you do?
I'm a cashier.
And what about you?
I currently work at Chipotle and I also Uber on the side.
When was the last time you saw your sister?
July 16th. Or, I'm sorry, July 20th.
Are there any charges here after July 16th of 2021?
Yes, Your Honor. I actually gave that up already. In the top, it says July. It's written on there.
Just a second. I'm going to give this back to you.
Yes, Your Honor.
Find any charges that were made after July 16th. It was after July 16th was the last time you saw your sister?
No contact. We didn't have contact.
So the last time that you saw her was in July.
Correct.
You have here July total $3,148.14. What does that number represent?
That is that's the all transactions that were confirmed to be her added up total in just the month of July.
Were there any?
Yes, it goes in. If it goes.
Were
in
there
order.
any charges?
There were quite a few.
In August, or was July the last amount of money that you took out?
In August, the card got cut off, so there were no.
Okay, so that the most that she incurred on the card in July was $3,000.
Correct, Your Honor.
And she left on July.
She was kicked out at the end of June.
The end of June.
Correct.
Yes, June of 2022.
Correct.
And that was with a police escort.
Correct.
No.
The police watching you?
They left and I was still in the apartment.
But they were there, they were called.
Right.
Okay. Now, what property do you allege that your sister damaged? Because that's the second part of your lawsuit.
It was a couch, and
What?
it was $1,100.
Well,
I have pictures of the aftermath of when she was kicked out and what the state of the apartment was left in, including the couch.
just show me the couch. If she damaged your couch, let me see it. I can't see what the damage is to this couch.
It shows better in other pictures.
Yeah. I don't see damage. I just see a lot of dirt.
Under the cushions, there was mold, and then there's a picture that shows 2 cigarette burns that her friend left.
Could you return this to the plaintiff, please? A lot of dirt. Okay. Anything else?
Thank you.
You can't use her credit card after you're not speaking to your sister. I don't believe
I didn't, Your Honor.
Yes, you did. $3,148.
I did not spend $3,000.
Kevin, these are July's statements. Here. I think one of those things is yours. The bottom document. Okay, anything else? Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $3,148. We're done here. Thank you very much.
This court is adjourned.
There was a lot more to show, but I'm glad I got something back. She took a lot from me.
I don't see how you can decide I made a transaction with my name written in pen.
And caused a lot of downfall after the fact.
She's just mad, I guess. I'm not sure.
I almost ended up homeless. I almost lost my job because of this.
I didn't cause any damage.
It was very hard. I didn't even want to press charges because she's my sister.
Nothing. They pulled up. They said that I had to leave. And I said, no, I already paid my portion. And they said, okay. And they left.
No, she was kicked out prior to that.
My friend did do that. I can say that. But, like,
She's just lying.
I didn't damage anything.
At this point, I don't believe her. I don't trust her. She took advantage of me.
Hopefully we can just dead it, but I don't know.
So I'm just glad that I was able to get something back so I can continue to get back up on my feet.
One day at a time.
I'm hoping for an apology, some remorse.
Who knows?
After I confronted her and she admitted to it, she ignored and cut everybody out. She didn't even say she was sorry. She didn't speak to me.
I don't know.
You know, it's a little bit easier now to commit fraud using someone's credit card, even if you only had access to the physical card for 5 seconds. It's long enough to take a picture of the back and input all the information into the DoorDashes, the Ubers, all the accounts. And if you don't check carefully, you may not notice for a couple months. So, I mean, I've been a victim of fraud in that way, and I know it can be very stressful trying to deal with the credit card company, and especially when it's your sister. I mean, my sister better think twice before using my credit card.
Do you know, generationally, I have a problem. It's actually my problem because I'm used to writing out a check. I have a checkbook. I write out the check. I deduct the check from my balance. I know what is...
How they taught you in 4th grade to balance
Absolutely.
the
You want to make a deposit in a savings account. We were taught you brought $2, you put it in a bank account. In the bank book every Friday, your teacher stamped it, $2. That's how you save money. And the fact that you can walk into a store and take your phone and go like that and charge.
And who knows whose information is on there.
Frightening to me. It all sounds as if it's going to collapse around me. But everybody, I think everybody who's under 50 uses that, probably more than 50, because my children are actually 50. It's hard to come to terms with that. But they all use their
online banking.
Banking?
Yeah.
I still don't have my banking online.
I know.
I still do. I still call them.
Yeah.
They say, it's her again on the phone.
You know you could do this online now, right?
Yeah, no. Anyway.
Well, keep doing it your way, and hopefully we don't get ruined by our way.
Yeah, fingers crossed. She seemed like a decent young woman, the plaintiff. You know, it's sad. Her grandmother saved probably all of her life so that her granddaughter had a little nest egg of $50,000, and she blew through it. Blew through it.
Unfortunate, but I appreciate the honesty.
And it was honest. Put money in trust.
And Tina Smoody are suing their former son-in-law, Dalton McDonald, for unpaid loans.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Hello, Judge. Case 2082, Smoody versus McDonald.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. and Mrs. Smoody, the defendant used to be married to your daughter.
Yes, Your Honor.
And according to what I've read, they were married for about 5 years.
Yes.
The thrust of your claim is that he owes for a couple of things, for rent and the balance of a truck. That's your lawsuit against him. I'd like to know, do you know the date of their marriage?
3/16/2011.
And your ex-wife's first name?
Jacqueline,
And when did you and your former wife separate?
in 2020.
And you had 2 children. How old are they now?
They are 5 and 8.
And who has custody of the children?
Dalton has physical, and they have joint custody.
Just a second. So he has custody of the 2 younger children?
Yes.
That's a yes. How long have you had custody of the 2 children?
Since July of last year.
At some point during the marriage, there was a truck purchased.
Yes.
Who purchased the truck?
Dalton purchased the truck. I co-signed for it.
And when was it purchased? Month and year?
June of 2017.
Was that the only car
Yes.
that they had?
Yes.
So that was a family car.
Yes.
And in 2017, was your daughter working?
Yes.
So both parents worked. And both parents, I assume, pooled their money and I assume made car payments.
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes.
Is that correct? Both. And then they separated in 2020, and at that time, the children came to live with you.
Correct.
And you took the truck
Yes.
by agreement with your now ex-wife.
Yes.
In 2020, who made the car payments?
My husband did.
Is that correct?
Yes. I made all of the car payments on that vehicle, all of them, from the time it was purchased until we paid it off.
Okay, so what you're telling me is from 2017, you made all the car payments.
That's correct.
Did your daughter and son-in-law make any of those payments?
Not directly, but they paid toward the balance of the money that they were.
You
Okay.
paid for the truck
That's correct.
since 2017, since they
correct.
were married,
Yes.
with no reimbursement.
I took payments out of my daughter's check.
Just be very, very careful with me, sir.
Yeah.
I want you to be very careful with me. I read that, what we call in Yiddish, Babameises in here, that you took money out of your daughter's check. Babameises, it means grandma's tale. It means it's not true. It means it doesn't sound right to me. I read it in here. Don't try to repeat it here because that won't be good for you. Okay, I'm going to believe you if you show me copies of her checks that you made to her with withdrawals from money she owed you. That's all I want to see. Do you have that?
I do not.
Not, of course not. Now, he has the truck, and this was clearly either a gift or a marital debt. Either one of those 2 things. It's either a gift or a marital debt. It was a family car that was used by your daughter, her husband, the grandchildren, with, according to you, no reimbursement, according to you, except this ridiculous reimbursement from your daughter's check, which I don't believe, so I'm not even going into it, with no reimbursement 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020. And when your daughter and the defendant separated in 2020, according to him and according to you, he took the truck and the children. And that was with her consent or not?
Yes, it was.
With her consent. Is that so far right? That's what you're telling me.
It's accurate.
Right. Did you intervene in the divorce proceeding and say that there is money owed, marital debt owed, and part of the marital debt is this loan on the truck?
No.
No, no.
No.
The answer is no, you did not. It would also be fair to say that you don't know how much, according to you, she paid for the truck.
I do, Your Honor. I have
Well-
that ledger that I have. I would go to her each week and say, Jacqueline, how much can I take toward the loan? And that's how much I would
Just-
take off each week.
All you have to do, sir, is show me. Otherwise, this is a whole bunch of nonsense.
Yeah.
It's a marital debt. You did not intervene in the divorce proceedings and say, listen, this is a debt that's still outstanding, whatever it is, $2,000, $3,000, $4,000. You didn't do that. Now, the only thing that you can say to me with regard to this truck business is if you had, had an agreement with the defendant in 2017 to pay the truck. And be very careful, because what you've told me is he didn't make any payments to you from 2017 ever.
He made some payment.
Just a second. Interesting. Show me where he made payments? Did you give him a receipt for payments?
No, this is a small town, and
It's not a small town, it's a family, sir. It's not a small...
I do have the ledger.
I'm not interested in a ledger you created. It's self-serving and therefore inadmissible and created for the purpose solely of this litigation and not created at the same time that the event took place. I might even cut you a little slack if you had a ledger, a book with entries in it at different times from 2017 in different ink with a day, how much was paid back, how much was paid back on the loan. I guarantee you do not have that. You have a very nice piece of white paper that you created for me. Is that correct? That is correct.
That is accurate.
Okay, so I'm not interested in your ledger. That's not a ledger. That's a document prepared for the purposes of litigation. So I want you to tell me what conversation you had and when with Mr. McDonald about paying for the truck. They bought this boat from you.
Accurate.
And how much did you sell it to them for?
$2,500.
Did they pay you for it?
No, part of that was put on the ledger, and part of it was cash.
You know I'm not buying your whole story.
Herman and Tina Smoody claim their former son-in-law, Dalton McDonald, owes for unpaid loans.
Now, I want you to tell me what conversation you had and when with Mr. McDonald about paying for the truck.
That was from the very beginning because I was paying all their bills.
Just a sec. I don't care whether you were paying their bills. I understand you were paying all their bills because they came to live with you for a brief period of time because they were evicted for whatever reason, and that was sometime in 2016. Okay. So I understand that you were paying their bills. Sometimes that's what parents do. They pay their bills.
We were paying their bills because they had no checking account.
That doesn't matter to me. I want to know your conversations with, where did it take place? Because you're not suing your daughter, you're suing him.
The conversation was when we rented the farm for them, which I know is not with the truck, but the landlord would not let them rent from them because they had terrible credit.
We'll get to the rent later. Stick with the truck. Don't talk to him when I'm asking him questions.
Well, the truck was the same thing. We put that on the ledger then, or on the running total, and they agreed. They both agreed that they were going to pay us off.
Okay.
He came over on Labor Day weekend, and I showed him the ledger, which he saw all the time.
No. Don't tell me what he saw. Don't tell me what he saw. If what you're saying is you showed him the ledger when he came over with the boys,
yes,
and he was going back to Minnesota.
Right.
And he brought the boys to see you to say goodbye?
Correct.
Okay, so far, it's very nice. You have a reasonable relationship with him, and certainly your daughter was clearly overwhelmed because courts do not usually split up children, so they must have felt that the children's best interest would be served if they remained with their father. Clearly what happened, the father came over to you to let you say goodbye to the children, and when he came over to let you say goodbye to the children, let me understand what you're saying to me. What you said to him was, not thank you for taking over this responsibility. Your daughter had more children than she could take care of, physically or financially, right? Clearly.
Yes.
Clearly. So what you want me to believe that two nice people who took in their daughter with her two kids and a husband and bought a truck and made arrangements for them to have some place to live, that these two nice people, when he came over, because your daughter couldn't take care of her children, and he brought them to say goodbye, you said, it's very nice. I want you to take a look at this ledger and see how much money you owe me. That's what you're asking me to believe, right? I'm going to let you live with that fantasy that I believe that.
And so I did give him the balance of what he owed me on the rent.
No.
And on the truck.
Nice.
And
he
he looked me in the eye, he shook my hand and said, Jerry, I promise I'm not going to screw you on this. I'm going to make those payments.
Make payments for what?
On the rent and on the truck.
Okay. Did you have that conversation with him?
No, I did not, Your Honor. The conversation was when I came up there the last time, Jerry was trying to sell his fishing boat, so I posted it on Facebook, and I sold it for him.
In what month and year?
That would have been September of 2020. After selling the boat, he gave me $1,200 for helping him.
How much did he sell the boat for?
It was $4,700.
So that was after you'd already moved?
Correct.
With the children?
Yep.
Okay. He helped you sell the boat for $4,700? Just answer my question.
No.
Did you give him $1,200?
No. He bought that boat from me a year prior to that. He had it.
So they bought this boat from you.
Accurate.
When?
That would have been in the spring of 2019.
And how much did you sell it to them for?
$2,500.
Did they pay you for it?
No, part of that was put on the ledger, and part of it was cash.
You know, I'm not buying your whole story. I'm not buying your whole story
sorry,
because what
Your
if...
Honor, I'm telling you the honest to God truth.
No, I don't think so. I don't think that I would have sold people who had no credit, who couldn't buy themselves a truck, so you had to co-sign for the only means of transportation that they had, who couldn't pay for their rent, who couldn't pay their bills because of their bad credit. I don't believe this whole scenario about selling them a leisure boat for $2,500. Is mind-boggling that you would think that an intelligent person like me would accept that. Okay, forget the truck. You have the truck now.
Yes.
Okay. You haven't finished your story with me, so sold the boat, and he gave you $1,200.
Correct. I gave him the $1,200 back, which made us even on the truck payment, and he gave me the title. Tina signed it, and then I brought it back to Minnesota and put it in my name.
Okay. Who signed it?
Tina signed it.
My name was on it as well.
Your name?
Yes.
As joint owners with him?
Yep.
Co-signer.
Oh, interesting. In what month did Mrs. Smoody
Yes.
sign over the car to you?
The same day that I gave Jerry the $1,200, that would have been in September.
Now, do you remember the $1,200?
No, it was $1,000 that he paid toward the loan when I sold the boat for him.
Okay.
And it was his boat that I sold for him.
Okay. You did not create this as a marital debt. It absolutely was a marital debt. So I'm dismissing that portion of your claim that deals with the truck. Now, let's deal with the rent. The rent that you're talking about was rent in what property?
The farmhouse that they rented.
From
in
when to when?
2016, November 2020.
And over the years that they lived there as a couple.
Yes.
The rent was paid to a landlord.
Correct.
By you.
Yes.
Is that right?
Correct.
And they, your daughter and her husband, would give you cash, checks, or whatever
Cash,
to
usually.
cover the rent.
Yep.
Yes.
And how much did they give you to cover the rent?
When we started out, rent was $800, and later on he raised it to $900. We never made it a set amount each week. They gave us what they could. And we've done this before in the past, and they've always paid us back.
Well, then you should have sued them and listed all of this as a marital debt in the process of their divorce. So it could all have been...
We're handling
it could all have
Jacqueline
been,
in another way.
You what?
We're handling Jacqueline alone.
I don't understand what that means.
Well, you're saying it was
does that mean,
marital.
just a second. Does that mean that you've already served your daughter with a summons?
Not yet, no.
Of course not. Of course not. And you did know when they were divorcing.
Yeah.
You did know when they
Yeah.
were divorcing. I'm not buying anything of this lawsuit, most of which, at least the rent part, is totally stale. I'm just curious, Mr. and Mrs. Smoody, somebody wants to answer this question for me. Mr. McDonald has custody of your two young
Yes.
grandsons, who I assume that you were close to because they lived with you in your house. And you
They came back
seem
to
like...
live with us. The two boys came back to live with us.
From when to when?
December of 2021 until July of 2022. 6 months we had them.
Just a second, 2022. Was there a court proceeding?
No,
But then in July, they went back with their father.
that's accurate.
And they've been with their father since.
Yes,
Okay, so the boys lived with you for 6, 7 months.
right.
Was that an acrimonious transfer? That's what you meant when you said any employer that has gone through all that paperwork and red tape, as I have, will do anything to avoid it. The anything is firing the employee.
Herman and Tina Smoody are accusing their former son-in-law, Dalton McDonald, of refusing to pay back loans.
Was that an acrimonious transfer, or was it something that you both...
What happened there was he called my husband to see if
No,
we
no,
would...
no, don't tell me what he said to your husband.
Okay,
I will tell you
him.
then. He called me in December and asked me if I would please take the two boys. I told him, I will take them, Dalton, if you start making regular payments,
Oh, well,
we
that's,
would.
we're out of the money business now, sir. What you're saying is from 2017, when the children were in his custody, your daughter may have been there, but they were in joint custody, and then he maintained custody of the children, and during the time he maintained custody of the children, there was no question whatsoever that he was not paying you back money. He did not make any payments to you. Occasional here and there, we don't keep records. All of a sudden, now you have the boys with you. And then in July, he comes back and he takes the boys back. All I asked you was whether that was an acrimonious, which is an unpleasant, or a harmonious transfer of the children. Mr. Smoody was in July.
In July, it was acrimonious because at that point, he'd gotten a restraining order against me.
Against you?
Against me while we had the children. Because I sent him a letter saying that I wanted payment, and he went and got a restraining order against me because they took that as a threat.
I'd like to see the letter, please, Kevin. And this is what needs to happen moving forward.
That's correct.
You need to mail me $200 on the 1st of every month and $200 on the 15th, starting March 1st, 2022. If I do not get these payments on time, the following will happen, which is, you know, you could say, I'm going to sue you, right? I'm going to sue you, but that's not what you say. You say, I will go to your boss and talk to them about garnishing your wages. Any employer that has gone through all the paperwork and red tape as I have will do anything to avoid it. So that's a threat. What you're saying is, I'm going to call your boss and tell him that I'm going to sue you, and then your boss is going to have to go through all the red tape of what it means to have a garnish on your salary. You have to go through accounting, and they have to deduct it. And no boss wants to do that, which is in effect say, so either you pay me or your boss is going to fire you. That's what you meant when you said, any employer that has gone through all that paperwork and red tape, as I have, will do anything to avoid it. The anything is firing the employee. The only thing that...
You can legally fire somebody.
Just a second. Whether you can legally fire them or not, that's what you were threatening. That's what that said. So we got an order of protection against you.
Correct.
And?
Then I didn't fight it because I didn't anticipate having any conversations or contact with him.
When you wrote this letter...
Yes.
You had the boys.
Yes.
Right. Not before.
No.
Not before. And he had had the boys for some time alone.
3 months.
He had had the boys for some time alone. Okay. Let's go back to my original question, which was, when the boys went back to their father, was it acrimonious or harmonious?
It was not good.
Well, so tell me your version of what happened.
The reason it was acrimonious is because he knew very well that once we got him, we put him on a strict schedule. 8 o'clock, brush your teeth, 8:15, pajamas, 8:30, bed.
Where was your daughter living at this time?
With us.
Yeah, just to say, if you're going to interrupt him because you want to get it out,
I'm sorry.
That's not going to be good for you.
She had a room at our house.
Just a second. So your daughter was living with you. So what you're telling me was your daughter was in the wind someplace.
Accurate.
Okay. You know, you had her for a long time. He only had her for 5 years. And I can understand the sadness if your daughter is in the wind and not being responsible, sir. But that doesn't mean he has to shoulder all the burden. Right now, he's shouldering all the burden of supporting the 2 children, which I assume you're doing. They're living with you. And so are you working?
Yes, I am.
And he's working. Your daughter is not.
She's working 2 jobs.
She always has.
If she's working 2 jobs, why was she in a room?
She wasn't renting. She was living there free.
Okay. So now let's get back to this acrimonious transfer of the children back in July.
Dalton called me, or called the kids.
Okay, so he called the children.
After bedtime.
Okay.
Called
And
my wife's phone 4 times. Ring, 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 ring. And she wouldn't answer because kids were in bed. And then he called my phone twice. The second time, I have an old flip phone. I flipped it. Walked in, because now I hear the boys are awake. I let them talk to the boys. And then I took the phone back, and I said some naughty things to him and hung it up.
What did you say naughty things to him for?
Because I was very angry at him. Can I use some swear words that I used when I told him?
No, I assume you used some terrible words.
Yeah,
but
I just told him, don't call me anymore.
Is there any reason that you discussed with your wife why she didn't answer the phone?
Because the boys were already in bed. He had done that before.
You already told me that you heard the boys, so you took the phone into his room.
After the phone calls, they woke up.
Is what you're telling me that the first time that he tried to talk to the boys, that you or your wife didn't answer the phone?
I think it probably happened once or twice prior, and then we told him, don't do it anymore.
Okay, fine.
And this time we were fed up.
Fine. So that's when he said, I'm coming to take the boys.
No.
Well, when did he say he was coming to take the boys?
Not until July. Jacqueline told us that Dalton was going to be taking the kids once they got out of school.
Okay, I'm going to take the pain out of this case, and I'm going to do it relatively quickly. I think, Mr. and Mrs. Smoody, that this lawsuit was very ill-advised. The defendant doesn't owe you any money. He doesn't owe you any money because if there was money owed, it was a marital debt, and it should have been taken up at the time of the divorce, listed as a marital debt, and then it could have been fixed by the judge who approved the divorce how much and by whom is owed money. You chose not to do that. It was only after a very acrimonious set of circumstances, roughly 5.5 years later, after this truck was purchased, that you chose to exercise any prerogatives with regard to a debt, except this letter, which threatens to go to his boss to get him fired if you don't stop making payments, and that was only after the 2 children came to live with you and were sort of overwhelmed. You have to understand, Mr. McDonald, who I think probably is trying, he's got the 2 boys. It got very complicated, but it's not a lawsuit, and I would make nice with him. He's got 2 children that you probably want to have some connection with, and this lawsuit certainly doesn't help that. Well, anyway, for all the reasons that I've stated, your lawsuit's dismissed. We're finished. Thank you.
This court is adjourned.
He owes us that money. He admitted he owed us the money.
I think the judge was absolutely correct.
He promised he was going to pay us the money back.
I don't owe Jerry any money.
Kids are irresponsible, have no sense of honor, duty, respect, responsibility, nothing.
It really should be a family thing, and maybe one day it can go back to it.
This was a great case that explains why a lot of cases in civil court have a statute of limitations before you can bring a certain kind of case, because here it was hard for us to understand why they would not have requested that money back earlier. So when you ask for it now, years down the line where so much has happened, court's not so likely to feed into that because you don't know what the real motivation is behind it.
I agree. I think it's really foolish of them, especially since their ex-son-in-law has total custody of these 2 little boys, for them not to maintain reasonable relationship with him.
It was a good showing, though, that if you do give money to your daughter, son, and their significant other, and they do get divorced, you should follow that divorce proceeding. So if you do have a claim,
a legitimate debt,
Is suing her homebuyer, Dante Zarzosa, for an unlawful eviction, extortion, and emotional distress.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Hello, Judge. Case 2156, Heckendorf versus Zarzosa.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Miss Hickendorf, who is this gentleman?
This was an attorney I hired in Mexico, kind of in the middle of the night when...
He's an attorney?
In Mexico.
Okay.
And my witness.
Okay. So, trying to piece this complaint and answer together. You purchased a home from Mr. Zarzosa?
No, Your Honor.
He purchased a home from you?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, got it. He purchased a home from you in Mexico?
Yes.
Where in Mexico?
About 5 miles north of Rosarito, maybe 10 miles south of the border.
How long have you owned the home?
I owned the home about 5 years.
How much did you pay for it?
When I bought it was $180.
How much did Mr. Zarzosa pay for the house?
$245.
On what date did he purchase the house?
February the 9th.
Were you present at the closing of the house?
I was.
When you closed on the house on February 9th, how much money did you receive?
I was supposed to receive...
No. You were supposed to receive $245,000. How much did you receive?
I received a cashier's check for $15,000.
15?
$15,000. I received cash, $4,500. And I received the next day through a wire transfer 4.6 million pesos or something like that. I have the paperwork.
Just tell me what that translated to in dollars.
It was $220,500.
Okay. Well, if you have proof to how much the translation of pesos to dollars is, that means that you got a total so far without the down payment. Did he give you a down payment?
Yes, $5,000. I was paid for my house. I was paid for my house.
No, I understand that, but this is the problem. Mr. Zarzosa says that when he took out the mortgage, he increased the amount that he was borrowing so that he had closing costs covered to the extent of, I think, $3,800 or $3,900.
It was a total of almost $10,000.
No.
Oh, $3,900.
That's what I asked you. What's 10,000? 10,000 comes out of nowhere. It was a difference, you said, of $3,900.
Yes, ma'am.
And so he wanted from you the difference.
Well, the realtor gave me...
Not the realtor. He wanted from you...
The realtor told me that. I've never really spoke to Dante except for on February 22nd and the time that he came and looked at my house. But the realtor sent me a fake statement, which I looked at because it's a high school kid's piece of paper, and I said I was not making a refund.
Okay. Well, you have to make a refund if you were paid more for the house than you're bargained for with the purchaser.
That's true.
That's true.
And the bank told me on April 1st...
No, they can't tell you anything.
Oh, really?
If they documented something to you, then I'll read it. But you can't tell me what a bank told you. First of all, banks don't speak. Now, I'd like you to get what Mr. Zarzosa is handing me.
This is from the bank.
Well, I can't read this, but what I can't read is in Spanish, but I can read the numbers which indicate that you received, Ms. Heckendorf, a total of $249,544.22. Let me see.
May I see that, ma'am?
Absolutely.
Because this is what that bank gave me right here. And I did go with my witness to the bank on April 1st, and they told me that
A bank can't tell you anything.
They told me that was the correct amount.
A bank can't tell you. They can give you a document, which I will read, but a bank can't tell you anything.
This is not really a case about this contract.
Yeah, it is. It started this way.
They're saying that that bank sent me the wrong amount of money?
Yes. That's what it says. That's what that says.
That's what this says.
That's what that says.
I imagine anyone can write what they want, but I was not paid the wrong amount of money.
Well, the bottom line of it was, eventually you gave him back $2,800 of the $39,000 that he said that he was entitled to. Is that correct,
No.
Ms. Heckendorf?
No.
You never gave him $2,800?
I signed a contract and gave him $2,800 under duress. He took my dogs and my cat, and he took my property.
I want you to understand what I'm saying to you. When I ask you a question, I expect an answer. You gave him $2,800, and you gave him the $2,800 because he believed and told you that he had taken out extra money in order to cover his closing costs. And you got that money, and he wanted that money back because he was going to have to pay for it through his mortgage.
I have never heard that these were closing costs. This is the first I've heard about closing
Well,
costs.
I'm going to tell you this. I'm going to
never heard about closing costs.
Stop talking. Stop talking.
Okay.
And I'm keeping it very simple.
Okay.
You're going to want to keep it very complicated, and I, madam, are going to keep it very simple. So the bottom line is you stayed in the house for free.
Karen Heckendorf claims her homebuyer, Dante Zarzosa, extorted money by keeping her pets in property. Dante is countersuing for false accusations and lost wages.
Good. This is your piece of evidence. Your piece of evidence says that you got $249,544.22.
No.
That's what it says.
No, it doesn't.
Okay, that's what it says. You gave him $2,800. He wanted $3,900. You gave him $2,800. What you're suing him for
He also
is...
wanted
I'm going
$2,500.
to dismiss your case.
Okay.
It's just as easy for me to send you back to Mexico. Once you closed on this house, According to what I looked at, Ms. Heckendorf, you asked if you could stay in the house because your new house wasn't ready to close escrow. Is that correct? That's a yes or a no?
Yes.
And so you closed the house on February 9th, and he allowed you to stay in the house. When were you supposed to vacate the house?
March the 1st, I paid
Just that's a date, March 1st. And between February 9th and March 1st, how much did you pay him in rent?
I gave him the money from the casita.
Just a second.
Yes.
That's an amount between February 9th and March 1st.
$2,370.
So that was a month's rent. Is that what you received?
No, Your Honor.
How much did she pay you in rent between February 9th and when she was supposed to vacate March 1st? She would have paid you rent in advance.
Nothing.
Show me proof that you paid him anything for rent on February 9th. Did you ever receive from this agent $2,370?
No, Your Honor.
Well, do you know who he is?
Yes, I do know. That's the realtor that represented both of us on the purchase.
And you never received, this was on February 9th. He acknowledges, he signed that he received $1,620 as in for the last month's rent and $750 security deposit, as well as prorated rent of $120. I don't know what prorated rent is for.
It was for the end of January. They moved in a few days before.
Who moved in?
The people that rented the casita.
And that's part of the house?
Yes.
What is that?
I have two houses on the property, the one I lived in and the casita. And Dante gave me an email that if I gave him this money from the casita, that I could live in the front house until March the 1st. I have that
Just a
email.
second. When he bought the house, did he or did he not buy the casita as well?
Yes, he did.
So he bought the casita as well. So it belonged to him. This rent belonged to him.
Only
So
if I
what do you mean?
rented
He's
it.
not giving you anything. If he buys a house and there's another property, he owns that property. He owns whatever rent was due for that property. So what you're saying is, let me cut to the chase. What you're saying is, you claim, he said to you, I've just paid you $250,000 for your house, which includes the casita. Your house isn't ready yet to close escrow. I will let you stay in the house free if you let me keep the money from the casita's rent.
Yes.
Oh,
And I have
fine.
an
So that the
email.
bottom line, don't speak, it doesn't look like you're losing so
And-
far. I may not be finished with you.
And
So
I hadn't rented
you're
the
speaking,
casita.
you're trying to speak over me.
Well-
And I'm keeping it very simple.
Okay.
You're going to want to keep it very complicated, and I, madam, are going to keep it very simple. So the bottom line is you stayed in the house for free from February 9th or 10th until it was supposed to be until March 1st. That was your understanding. You were staying in his house for free.
I didn't have to rent the casita.
I don't care whether you had to or whether you didn't have to. You were staying in your house that you sold to him for free until your new house was ready. That's a yes.
I felt that.
I don't
but
care
I guess
how you
if you
feel.
want to look at it
I
that
don't
way,
care how you feel.
Okay.
You sold him your property and you took advantage of a piece of that property, the casita, in order to negotiate yourself a free 3-week rent until your house is ready. Now, you may stand there and look at me in that smug way, but you and I both know that that was a deal you made for yourself.
Yes, I agreed.
Okay.
I agreed to rent the casita ahead of time before I moved out and give him the money so that I could stay in the property until my house closed escrow 1 week.
Pretty tricky.
May have been March the 6th.
Pretty tricky. Bottom line is you stayed in his house for free.
Okay.
And then what the rest of the case is about is that you claim that he changed the locks on the door before March 1st, and in the house you had your pets, and he held ransom your pets until you gave him what turned out to be $2,800. That's your complaint. He changed the locks on February 28th. Where were you when he changed the locks?
February 22nd.
22. Where were you when he changed the
I was
lock?
in my office in San Diego.
Okay. And how did you find out that the locks were changed on the door?
Dante sent me an email that I found later, admitting to what he did, but
No, don't. I asked you a question.
I was at my office, and he called me on the phone, and he said, "This is Dante Zarzosa, and I have..."
My way. He called you in the office. That's how you found out he changed the locks. That's an answer. Approximately what time did he call you in your office?
It was about 6:30, 6:45 in the evening.
6:30 p.m. And tell me what you claim he said to you and what you said to him.
"This is Dante Zarzosa. I have your 2 dogs. You're never going to see them again if you don't pay me $3,900.
Now, that wasn't the first time you had heard about this $3,900. That was not the first
time. I heard about it on February the 9th. No, the 8th. Sorry, February the 8th, I'd heard about it.
And so you told him after that you would, or you told him, or you told your lawyer, is that you?
Yeah,
now you
me.
can stand up.
I met him.
Shh, don't speak.
Okay.
On what date did you get your pets back?
Well, I didn't actually get them. My friends went and begged for the animals.
Don't tell me what they did.
They gave them to, and they gave them to my friends.
Stop, please. Okay.
Sit.
Yeah.
Karen Heckendorf has accused her homebuyer, Dante Zarzosa, of extortion by threatening her pets. Dante claims Karen owes him for making false accusations.
Your last name, sir, is?
Mena, Your Honor.
Mena. Mr. Mena, you're an attorney in Mexico?
Yes.
Okay. Are you a real estate attorney?
Yes, civil attorney, real estate as well.
You understand what this is about, and you understand if you're a real estate attorney that sometimes people take a mortgage that's beyond what they need in order to cover their closing costs. You understand that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. It's not an unusual thing. I've bought and sold many homes. A lot of people do that. And when were you first made aware of the fact that the defendant was at least claiming that there was an amount that he had incurred debt on by way of a mortgage in excess of what your client in Mexico was supposed to receive in the amount of $3,900?
February the 22nd, something like that.
2/22. And when she came to your office, now we no longer have attorney-client privilege, sir, because she's brought you here as a witness, so you're going to testify to every conversation that you
Absolutely,
had.
yes.
You understand that?
Absolutely.
Okay. She came to your office after she found out that the locks were changed.
Actually, I was at home. That was at night.
So when for the first time, sir, did you hear about this money that the defendant was claiming that he was owed?
Mr. Dante called me.
I want you to answer my question.
Yes.
My question is, when she called you the night of the 22nd at your home, did she tell you at that time or soon thereafter that there was a discrepancy that he was alleging with regard to the closing fees?
Not actually, no. No,
She didn't tell you anything. She told you that he just illegally evicted her and changed the locks.
Yes, and at the same time, because of some situations regarding a deal she has on the sale of the property.
Your client knew, as of February 8th, that the defendant was alleging that she owed him money from the closing costs. That's clear. That's what she told me. Now, they had clearly ongoing discussions about this from February 8th or 9th, when the deal closed and she got her money and she's living rent-free. So what I want to know, when did she share with you, not that there was an illegal eviction, not that her pets were in the house, when did she share with you that he was claiming that she owed him money? And I'm not excusing self-help. When did she tell you that? Because she knew it at the beginning. She knew it before she called you.
I have the communication from Mrs. Karen at the time we filed the complaint in the DA office, district attorney office. This is the time when she expressed me the whole facts.
Oh, so she didn't tell you the whole fact when she called you at home on the 22nd?
No, because she was very worried. She was concerned regarding the babies.
Don't tell me that. Okay.
That's it.
Now I got it. So I got what you're dealing with. I understand who I'm dealing with. Okay. On what date did you get your pets back, Miss Heckendorf?
The 22nd.
Okay. What time?
Well, I didn't actually get them. I got them the next day because my friends went and begged for the animals.
Don't tell me what they did.
They gave them to my friends.
Stop it, please.
Sit.
Yep.
I just asked you, when you got your animals back. So you got your animals back on the same day as he changed the locks on the house. They were given to friends.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
So they were returned to you the same day because if they were given to your friends at your direction, your friends were your agents.
Yes.
Good.
Only the dogs. He had my cat the next day.
Did you have a cat or is it an outside cat? Is it an outside cat?
Outside cat that lives indoors, and they
Okay,
put
it's
the
an
doggy door down so the cat couldn't get out.
Okay.
He told me he had my cat.
Okay. When did you give him the $2,800?
About 5 o'clock on Wednesday, the 23rd.
Is there a writing of the exchange of that money? I'd like to see it. I can't read this.
The plaintiff has a translated version.
Can I see the translated copy, please?
Can I speak?
About what?
About that paper?
Yeah.
He was the one that drew it up. He could tell you, Your Honor.
No. I want this. Did you draw this up?
Can I see it?
Yeah, sure. Kevin, give it to him.
Thank you.
Did you draw that?
Yes, I participated.
What does it tell me?
It's translated.
Don't speak. Do you have the translation of this document?
Yes, I gave it to you, ma'am.
Okay. Okay, number 5, very clear. This is the agreement that Mr. Zarzosa receives from Ms. Heckendorf $2,800 for concept of refund of pending payment. The previous amount is received fully. Therefore, the debt is liquidated. And number 6, the seller, Ms. Karen Heckendorf, grants the broadest waiver derived from the investigation file presented before the district attorney's office. I assume that that was your complaint, and with a file number filed against Mr. Zarzosa by not keeping any legal action present, past or future, derived from the present business.
This is the police report they're talking about.
I don't care what this says, is you've settled all of your disputes with each other. This says you've settled everything that had to be settled. Okay, but what the translation suggests is by this document, each of you understood that you were giving him money. He was not going to follow through with anything that had to do with the criminal complaint or with a criminal complaint against him. You went your own merry way. Am I crazy, or is that what this document says, sir? You are the lawyer.
Yes, it says so.
That's what it says so. So I want to know why you're all here bothering me. You settled everything. You got back your stuff. You got out of your house. You got your personal property. He has a counterclaim for false accusations and loss of wages as a result of whatever. This document says you've resolved everything with each other. So why are you here?
I did not sign that document under usual circumstances. I hadn't had any sleep, and I was coerced. And he said he was going to burn my furniture or he was going to sell it in the year that it would take me to prosecute him under this Mexican contract.
Put it down, sir. The case is over.
If he wanted to
The case
sue
is
me,
over. You're a pretty savvy lady, madam. You had an attorney that you consulted. He was there when this document was signed.
It wasn't a real estate deal.
He was there
He
when
was
this...
only on this
Goodbye.
deal
We're
in the
done.
middle of the
Case is
night.
dismissed. So is your counterclaim.
This
Bye.
court is adjourned.
this was really a case about Dante taking my animals for hostage and extortion.
I didn't steal anything.
The only reason I agreed to give him $2,800 was because he said he was going to burn or sell my furniture.
I'm gonna enjoy my house. Thank you, Karen.
That lady was never intimidated into anything.
I don't think so either.
She knew she had gotten an extra few bucks at the closing. She knew that she was really living there rent-free, which is really very nice. You buy a property, letting her stay there for almost a month. I have little sympathy for him because he resorted to self-help, went to the house, even though he knew she was still there, and changed the locks. But that document clearly indicated that both parties at some point said, okay, enough. I'm getting out of the house. I'm getting my belongings. My pets are back. Yep. Here's your money, and finished. Well, when you make a settlement, you've made a settlement. You don't get to make one settlement in Mexico and another one in California.
Dean Miller is suing vehicle owner Robert Pena for damage after his 17-year-old son hit Dean's car.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Hello, Judge. Case 2076, Miller versus Pena.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Pena, is that your son?
Yes, it is.
The one who was driving the car?
Yes.
Okay, good. You stand up next to your father. Mr. Miller, is your claim that the defendant's son hit your car that was parked in a parking lot?
Yes, Your Honor.
And it was parked in the parking lot of a high school?
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you work in that high school?
Yes.
As what?
I'm a teacher.
What do you teach?
I teach what's called on-site continuation. It's a continuation classroom for 10th through 12th grade students.
Do you go to that school?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. On what date did you park your car when you allege it was hit?
That was on March 8th, Your Honor.
You were in school that day.
Yes, Your Honor.
Now, you should know that in reviewing this case, Mr. Miller, because he was not there when his car was hit.
Correct.
Correct? And so he alleges that it was you who hit his car and then left the scene. Your father said it was not you who hit his car, and there's no proof that it was you who hit his car. That's what your father said. Before you answer my questions, I'm going to tell you that Mr. Miller has a video that he says was taken by school cameras that were zoned onto the parking lot that demonstrates that you actually did hit his car and leave. Do you understand?
Yes, Your Honor.
So now we're going to go back to March 8th, and you're going to tell me what happened with Mr. Miller's car.
So I drive myself to school every day, or at the time I was driving myself to school because that was my only way of getting to school.
Did you have a driver's license?
At the time, no, I did not have a driver's
So you were driving a car without a driver's license.
Yes, Your Honor.
And what kind of a car were you driving?
It was a 1991 Camaro.
Where did you get the car from?
Me and my dad had gone off the street. It was a project car.
How old are you?
17.
Did you try to take a driving test?
Yes.
When?
Back when I had turned 17, actually, in February of last year.
And you didn't pass it?
No.
Did you take the written test?
No.
What did you take in February?
The practical test.
Just the practical test, the driving test?
Yes.
And you failed that?
Yes.
So despite the fact that you failed that, you drove the car, and your father knew that you were driving the car without a license? That's a yes or a no?
Yes.
Was there insurance on this car, Mr. Pena?
No, there wasn't.
So no insurance, no license. So far, not good parenting. You understand that, Mr. Pena?
Yes.
Great. Okay, so you drove yourself to school and?
There's a parking lot that all the students, teachers, anyone who goes to school, really, they can park
Yes,
at.
nobody suggests you were trespassing in a place you weren't supposed to be.
Yeah, so every morning I would park in...
Not everyone, look at me. That day, Mr. Miller's car.
Yes, Your Honor. That day, March 8th, I came to school as usual and I parked in my area, and then one of the on-school deputies that the school has, he pulled up right behind me as I parked, and he asked me for my information, he asked me for my name, my school ID.
I want to know what happened with Mr. Miller's car.
Oh, nothing happened with Mr. Miller's car.
So what you're telling me is that you did not hit Mr. Miller's car. Is that what you're telling me?
Yes, Your Honor.
What car were you driving that day?
1991 Camaro.
What color is it?
Red.
How long have you been going to that school?
It's my 4th year going.
How many other people drive a 1991 Camaro? Red. Nobody.
Nobody.
And so I'm going to watch this video. Sarah, do we have the video?
I have it. So, there. Wait, you'll see it.
Okay. You had a truck.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay, so there's no question you hit the truck. Do you want me to show you the video?
No, Your Honor.
Well, if you don't want to see the video, that's because you told me a lie.
Oh, yes, I'd like to see the video.
Absolutely. Going to watch very carefully, you pulling into a spot and the truck moved as you were pulling in. Have they shown you the video, Mr. Pena?
They showed me a different version of that video.
Well, I've just seen the version that I saw. Got it?
Yes, Your Honor.
Saw the truck move, did you?
Yes, it did.
When you were pulling in next to it?
Yes, I was.
When you were pulling in next to it? So that didn't happen because there was an earthquake. That happened because you hit the truck.
Yes, Your Honor.
Fine. Now we understand each other, Mr. Pena?
Yes.
Great. That's a yes. Okay. Can I see pictures of your truck, please, and the estimate to repair it?
Yes, Your Honor.
Have you seen the photographs?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Totally consistent, right? Okay. Mr. Miller, you're from California?
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you regularly teach today?
Yes.
So you had to take a day off.
Yes, I have a substitute today, yes.
How many days off are you allowed?
10 per year. I've accumulated quite a few because I don't take many days off.
You get paid for those days?
I get compensated because I have sick days or personal necessity days.
The reason I'm asking you these questions, Mr. Miller, because it's no question that you are entitled to have your car fixed. But that's, to me, even though that's all you're requesting, I think the fact that Mr. Pena allowed his son to drive a car without insurance and without a license, not only without a license, but knowing that his son took a driving test the month before and failed it, which means that he was not a good driver. Not a good enough driver to get a driver's license. And I have a lot of people in my family that don't drive well, that I don't like to be in the car with. But they all have driver's licenses because they managed to pass a driving test. So I know that you are only requesting the $1,524, but I'm actually awarding you $2,500.
Thank you.
And that's for the aggravation of, instead of Mr. Pena saying to you, I'm sorry, my son hit your car, because either his son lied to him.
Your Honor, can I say something?
Either his son lied to him, or his son told him the truth, but he lied to me. And he's the grown-up. He set an example for his son that said it's okay to break the law. Not only for you, because you take the car to school. Take the car to school, even though you failed. Take the car to school. It has no insurance. If you hit somebody in that car and you seriously injure them, that car has no insurance. Car has no insurance. He has nothing to lose. Car has no insurance, but the person who he hit, person whose property he may have destroyed, they have no recourse. You understand, sir? That's a bad parental example. You want to say something to me or not?
Yes, I do.
I don't care that you didn't like it. That's not, as a parent, the lesson you should be teaching. And whether or not you like the way the sheriff spoke to him, that is totally irrelevant to me.
Later.
I paid as much as I could supporting him. I wasn't getting paid rent for his room.
What happened is you both sort of took advantage of this rent moratorium.
Not true.
Dean Miller claims vehicle owner Robert Pena owes for damage after his 17-year-old son hit Dean's car.
Go ahead.
My thing I didn't like was how he got approached.
I don't care whether you like it or not.
That's what I do.
I don't care whether you like it or not. Did your son come home from school that day and say, I hit somebody's car?
No, he didn't.
No, he didn't.
Nowhere.
And just a second. And when you asked him whether he hit somebody's car, what did he tell you? Just be careful.
He said, I think. He felt
Just a
intimidated
second.
by
I think.
the sheriff and him.
I don't care that you didn't like it. That's not, as a parent, that's not, as a parent, the lesson you should be teaching. First of all, you allowed your son to violate the law. You allowed it. And then, I mean, I would certainly know whether I caused that much damage. He knew that that car moved. So either he lied to you or you lied to me. And whether or not you liked the way the school official spoke to him or the sheriff spoke to him, that is totally irrelevant to me. That shouldn't be the takeaway from this. The takeaway from this is you're supposed to follow the rules. The rules are meant for everybody, and that includes you and your kid. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,500. We're finished here.
This court is adjourned.
Police officer came behind me when I parked and accusing me that I'd hit someone.
The school deputy saw the video, knew the car, so he approached the student.
The person who I'd supposedly hit came out with a megaphone yelling at me.
There is no megaphone, so I don't know where that came from.
Telling me that I'd hit him. So I was kind of like freaking out. I didn't really know what to think.
If it happened to me, he could hit someone else. And
I didn't know I hit your car. Like, did I hit your car? Like, I didn't even know what to think. I could have sworn I did not.
This was fortunate that it was just a parked car in a parking lot.
It is time to get his license, yes, that's correct.
It's time to get the car fixed and just get some closure on this.
In our family, we would call that contact a love tap. And as someone who has had a few run-ins potentially with stationary objects, I will tell you.
Not potentially.
I will tell you, you know when you hit a stationary object, even if it's just a light little love tap. So I just thought it was outrageous that the defendants, father and son, they knew that there was a video and still took the position of, nope.
Well, his father's position was, I didn't like the way they spoke to my son, and therefore I'm not responsible. They shouldn't have spoken to him. I mean, he's 17 years old, but he looks like a man. He's taller than his father, you know.
You have to take responsibility.
But you have to take responsibility and not drive a car, especially. You failed a driving test. The most basic thing. I mean, you know, we have
I will
people...
say, I did pass on the first try, so...
Yes, but we have people in our family who actually did not.
Okay, yes.
And they
will not be
drive...
named.
And they didn't drive a car.
Yeah.
Until they could pass a driving test.
And their parents were the first ones to say, no shot until you pass that test.
Absolutely.
So parents need to be responsible as well.
Right.
Case 2104, Birkeland versus Lefkowitz. All party, please step forward.
Shannon Birkeland is suing her former roommate, Ian Lefkowitz, for unpaid rent and eviction costs.
Ms. Birkeland, how long had you lived in your residence?
Prior to the defendant moving in?
Yes.
2 years.
And how long did you live there with the defendant?
A total of 5 years.
You lived
With the
in
defendant, I'm sorry, 3 years.
3 years.
This month would have been.
And for most of that 3-year period, what kind of work do you know that the defendant did?
Computer work and music producing.
How do you support yourself, sir?
I produce music. I don't do computer work.
Produce music for whom?
Various artists and brands and whatever.
How long have you been doing that?
Since I was 13 years old.
How old are you now?
32.
You have a corporation or an LLC?
Not currently standing, but I do have one that is out of commission right now that needs to be reestablished.
When was the last time you filed tax returns?
Last
April.
Last April, yeah.
And on your tax returns that you filed, how much did you indicate that you earned?
I receive royalties from a company called, and they take my taxes out automatically, so I'm not sure how much.
I'm asking you how much you reported your gross income was when you filed your tax returns in April.
They come automatically, is what I'm saying. I didn't file them. They're paid for and filed automatically by the company that distributes my royalties.
So is what you're saying you didn't file tax returns in April?
I assume that they're filed automatically through this company that pays me.
Mr. Lefkowitz, when was the last time you put a stamp on tax returns that you sent to the government?
I do not know.
Ever? You have to think.
No,
ever?
Like I said, where I make most of my money, if not all my money, comes through a company called, which they take out the taxes automatically before paying me. So I've never filed through that. I just assumed that it was already taken care of in that way.
You assumed wrong.
Okay.
Okay. There came a time, Mr. Lefkowitz, you lived there for 3 years, but there came a time when you stopped paying rent.
Correct.
And what was your rent when you moved in with the plaintiff?
$1,200 a month.
You had your own room?
Yes.
Bathroom?
Yes.
You moved in what month and year?
2019 in October.
And as you said, most of your money comes from royalties, and I assume that's royalties on past work.
Yes.
And you've been existing on that for how long?
8 years or so.
So how much do you make from these royalties? You pay $1,200 a month rent, you have a car. Mm-hmm. It's not an answer.
Yes.
You have a car.
Do I make?
So you have a car, you have insurance.
Yes.
What kind of car do you have?
I have a Honda Clarity.
What year?
It's a lease. It's a 2021.
And how much do you pay a month for the lease?
$395.
Does that include insurance or does it not include insurance?
It does not include insurance.
So you pay an additional how much for insurance?
About $350.
So you spend $700 a month for your car.
Correct.
And let's get back to, you moved in October of 2019, your rent was $1,200 a month. And you lived there until when?
Until about 2 months ago. So September 4th or 3rd is when I moved all my stuff out.
And when was the last month you paid rent?
That would have been in December of 2021.
So you lived there January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, and part of September. So at least 8 months that you lived there and didn't pay rent.
Mm-hmm. Well, I wasn't there for August, pretty much the
Your
entire...
things were there.
Sure.
If your things are there, you're there.
Okay.
Because that's part of what she's suing for, rent that you didn't pay.
Mm-hmm.
Are you still living there?
No.
Why not?
I was evicted.
When?
The exact date is August 2nd. I do have my paperwork for notice to vacate and all that.
Just a second.
Sure.
On August 2nd of 20...
I'm sorry, that was the court date, and that's when the judgment was made, was August 2nd.
And when did you move out?
2 weeks later.
That's not true.
And you were evicted for non-payment of rent?
Yes, for 2 months. Yes.
Just a second. You were evicted for non-payment of rent?
Yes, for 2 months.
Well, show me that it was for 2 months. I just want to see that it was for 2 months and what 2 months those were.
That page right there.
No, you didn't leave until, let's say, September 1st.
That sounds more like it.
You didn't leave until September 1st.
I'm sorry, Your Honor. I did mistakenly speak. I do remember that the judge...
Don't tell me what the judge said. I'm asking you when you left.
Gave me 6 weeks from that date of August 8th.
What
so I left September 8th.
And you left at about the same time.
I left prior, but I called my neighbor at...
Just a second.
Yeah.
You left at about the same time.
A few days before.
Fine, that's at about the same time.
She actually left after that. I talked to a neighbor that said around the 14th that she was still there.
You can't tell me what the neighbor said. Sorry, that's why I stopped you before.
Correct.
Well, I know there's a moratorium for COVID, and the government shut my business down.
That's what he
so
says.
I knew that I had protection.
He's saying the exact same thing you are in his answer. You two are soulmates.
Hey, no, Your Honor, I'm sorry.
Shannon Berkland claims her former roommate, Ian Lefkowitz, is responsible for unpaid rent.
Okay, this eviction notice is dated May 26, and it says that you didn't pay April or May.
Correct.
But both of you lived there in June. Did you pay June?
Yes.
Show me proof. Show me proof that you paid June and July. Show me proof you didn't pay April and May. Show me proof that you paid.
My proof?
Your proof.
Is in the fact that I don't owe any rent except for when the moratorium lapsed and I...
No.
I don't have a receipt. I don't have a receipt for payment.
Then just say I didn't pay rent for June and July.
I did not pay rent for June and
Well,
July.
just answer that question. So you didn't pay rent for
yes.
June and July.
Yeah.
Here we go. And you didn't pay for April, May, June, and July. I know you didn't pay for August. There's no question you didn't pay for August, and you were actually there in August, so you didn't pay for 5 months.
I guess, yes.
Okay, yes. And the reason that you didn't pay rent for those 5 months was what?
I had spent all my savings on paying rent, and I had none left. I paid as much as I could, supporting him.
Just a second.
The best I could, and I...
What happened is you both sort of took advantage of this rent moratorium.
Not true.
Well, if you didn't pay rent for April, May, June, July, and August, what were you doing?
Waiting for him to pay his rent because I couldn't afford to pay for my station.
Just a second.
Yeah.
You didn't pay any rent. You didn't say to the landlord, I have a roommate. I can't take care of him. I'm giving you my half of the rent.
Well, I know there's a moratorium for COVID, and the government shut my business down.
That's what he says.
I knew that I had protection.
That's what he says. He's saying the exact same thing you are in his answer.
Did he go to court and do the paperwork and do the filings and
Who cares?
And I do.
Who cares? I don't. Each of you seems to be living. You operate your hair business out of your house.
In addition to another business, yes.
Whatever. You operate your hair business out of the house. He operates, I don't know what he does, but I know he's 32 years old, supports himself, spends $700 a month on a car, spent for a long time $1,200 a month rent, and can't remember the last year or the last decade that he filed tax returns. So whatever it is, this is your problem, Ms. Berkland, and this is what I actually didn't understand when I read your complaint, because what you're looking for is 8 months' rent from him.
Correct.
You didn't pay the rent.
I shouldn't be evicted. I asked him to leave every month that he didn't pay me.
Should have read a cutter.
I had a business as a hairdresser, and I went out to rent a station, and I was out for 4 months to pay for a station.
It doesn't matter.
Because I wanted to go back to be my nice space that I had created for myself, and I've worked my butt off for, and my clients liked. I wasn't getting paid rent for his room. I wanted to move my studio into his room and make it my hair salon. So I can have 2 businesses now out of my home. I have 0 income, 0 businesses. My life has not been easy, and this home was the one thing that I've worked my ass off for. It's the only thing in life that I loved, besides my
Miss Birkeland, did you say to your landlord,
yes,
I have a roommate.
Yes.
He's not paying me his half of the rent, but I want to show you in good faith, I am going to give you my portion of the rent. You didn't do that.
Yes, I did, Your Honor.
Well, show me. Just a second. Show me. All I know is they say this is your evidence for the full amount of the rent for April and May. And I know you didn't pay June, July, August, and September. I know you didn't pay that. So I'm asking you, just show me some proof, Miss Birkeland, that you said to your landlord, who is also in business of renting space for which they are requesting rent paid in a timely fashion, and then they've got 2 people who decide, well, we have a rent moratorium. I'm not in any worse position now than before, so I'm just not going to pay rent.
Your Honor, I was...
Just show me that you made partial payment to the landlord for April, May, June, July, and August.
I don't have that because I was protected under the law.
Okay, good. And so is he. Case is dismissed. We're finished. Goodbye. Goodbye. Listen, you two are so. You're just
attempted to pay full rent. You two gone, and I was able to bring my business into the house.
You two are soulmates. You both relied.
No, Your Honor, I'm sorry.
Out.
This court is adjourned.
Soulmates. You both took advantage of a law, and you both lost. Goodbye.
I have nowhere to operate both of my businesses. I created one during COVID.
We both exercised our rights under California tenant laws.
Which I would have had I had a room that he wouldn't leave.
You know, that's just what it is.
Every month I pleaded with him.
That never happened.
I cried, I fought.
She never asked me to leave crying, approached me, or nothing.
If it can be helped, don't have a roommate.
I'm glad you didn't give her any money. But if you were going to award any money in this case, it should go to the landlord, because the plaintiff did the exact same thing using the exact same legal loophole that was created during COVID for people who really were struggling and not being able to afford their rent. And now she sues him for doing the exact same thing that she did. So the landlord is really the only one out here.
That's correct.
Yeah.
And if you could write a check to the landlord, that would be fine, but the landlord isn't a party. I have a feeling that there are a lot of very small landlords, not people that own giant buildings, but people who have, their real estate businesses are small. They may have 2 or 3 or 4 apartments that they rent. They maintain them, whatever. She was living there for a while, clearly happy with this situation because she lived there for 5 years. Well, why just not pay your rent if you're still doing hair in the apartment? That's a business. That's what you're doing. He's still collecting his same royalties, which he thinks somebody else should be reporting on their tax return. I don't know. People have to really grow up. I'm getting so... losing my patience so quickly.
Maybe I'm losing it a little young.
Maybe. I think I'm...
Isaac Uno is suing his former tenants, Ann V. Kelly and Kevin Jackson, for unpaid rent and property damage.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Hello, Judge. Case number 2116, Uno versus Kelly Jackson.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Uno, you purchased a duplex home, 2 different apartments.
That's correct.
In what month and year did you purchase the home?
November of 2020.
And when you purchased it, one of the duplexes was occupied by the defendants.
That's correct.
It is your claim that they owe you for rent?
Yes.
And for property damage?
That's correct.
They are no longer there?
No.
Mr. Jackson?
Yes.
How long were you and your wife living in the duplex before November of 2020?
We moved in June of 2019.
And at the time, do you recall who your landlord was in June of 2019?
Yes.
Between June of 2019, when you first moved in, and November of 2020, when the plaintiff bought the property, was there any work done on that property?
Not at all.
No maintenance?
No maintenance.
Okay. So from the time you moved in, the prior owner did no maintenance on that property? Did no painting?
Oh, just the minor stuff before we moved in. They just painted and just had everything looking nice, the floors.
So just a second. So the prior owner painted the premises and did the floors?
Yes, it was carpet and some flooring in the kitchen.
And Mr. Yuno did not do any other painting or flooring or any cosmetic work on the duplex when he purchased it in November of 2020?
No.
So whatever was there by the previous owner of the property is still there?
Yes.
I'm just asking you this because your counterclaim is for child endangerment, and the child endangerment is because of lead paint. That's what you write here.
Yes.
He didn't put in the lead paint, right?
Yes, thinking about that.
He didn't paint it. You don't know when it was painted. Maybe it was painted by the prior owner. How do you know? By the way, do you have medical records of the child that you claim has lead poisoning?
Yes.
I'd like to see them. Yes, he. I have no idea what this says.
That's the piece of paper that he gave me from the hospital.
Well, I don't understand
for the blood work.
I'm not a doctor, so I can't.
Okay.
We have something from the health department also stating that because my son his lead was found in his system, they got involved.
I understand that. He did not paint the apartment.
No, ma'am.
When you, just for my own curiosity, when you bought this place, do you remember the purchase of it? And when you purchase a property, usually there's an inspection.
Yes.
And one of the questions usually has to do with lead paint. Do you remember any of that from when you purchased the property?
I didn't receive any notification of lead paint from the inspectors.
Well, usually they sign off that there is no lead paint.
I don't remember seeing because they never mentioned anything about it.
Nothing about lead paint?
No.
Okay. Did you ever have the home tested, by the way, for lead?
Only when we found out about my son having lead.
Okay. And do you have the test result?
And there was lead found in 2 places, not just the bathtub.
Miss Kelly, the issue is he didn't do any of that painting.
Right.
He bought the place. You had been living there for a year and a half before he bought the place.
Right.
Right?
Yes.
Okay. And your son was born within that year and a half.
Well, we moved there, he was 6 months.
He was 6 months old, so he lived there for a year and a half even before he purchased it.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
We did buy the things to fix the bathroom up. He told us to take them back to fix the tub and everything because we asked him to fix it. So the things we had, like to get the tub fixed, the flooring and everything, he told us to take back.
How many people were living in the duplex?
In our apartment?
In your apartment?
4.
4? Including the baby?
Yes, ma'am.
Including the baby. And how old's the other child?
She's 14.
Okay. Do you have that report?
No. This is just stating where it was at.
The health department?
Yes, I thought that piece of paper that I gave you was that one.
No.
This is just
doesn't say
This is just showing where the lead was found in the house.
How old is this duplex?
It was built in 1906, so almost 115 years or so.
Yeah. And they certainly used lead paint
Possibly,
then.
yeah, I'm not sure about
I'm
it.
not sure.
I don't
But,
understand about it.
Ms. Kelly, Mr. Jackson, that's not his fault. That's not his fault. So now I would like to know, Mr. Yuno is suing you for rent. And I'd like to know first, how much rent were you paying?
$750.
And that's what you were paying under the old lease?
Yes.
And were you current on your rent when Mr. Yuno took over the property?
Yes.
In November of 2020?
Yes.
So far correct?
That's accurate.
When did you stop paying rent?
December of 2021.
So you paid rent for a year?
Yes, ma'am.
Were you working, Mr. Jackson?
Yes, when I first moved in, yes, I was working 2 jobs.
And were you working from November of 2020 to December of 2021?
Yes, I was. It was.
For whom?
Yes, I was. I was working for TGI Fridays.
And Ms. Kelly, were you working?
No, ma'am, I'm disabled.
And how much were you receiving in pay?
I was only getting...
If you have to think about it, you don't remember.
Yeah, I wasn't getting too much because it was during COVID, and I was working at a restaurant, and I was only allowed to work 3 days out of the week.
Okay. And what happened in December of 2021?
What happened was he already sent us a letter previously saying that he wanted to go up on the rent to a...
Okay.
Yes, to
so you had no
$1,000.
lease anymore, and he wanted to raise the rent. Okay. I believe you. And that was the reason that you used to try to evict them before?
Yes, that was the first one, but I don't agree with his statement.
Well, what statement don't you agree with?
Isaac Uno claims his former tenants, Ann V. Kelly and Kevin Jackson, owe for unpaid rent and property damage. Ann V. and Kevin are countersuing for child endangerment and a constructive eviction.
And in what month was that?
He sent it to us, I want to say.
Do you remember, Mr. Uno?
It was 90 days before the 1st of December, so that would have been, I think, September 31st or October 31st.
That he was raising the rent to what?
To $1,000 a month.
Effective December.
Yes, December 1st.
And what happened in December?
We were, at that time, looking for a new apartment, and at that time it was hard because around that time, a lot of the rent was going up from just being like $800, $900 to like $1,200 to $1,400 for rent for a month there.
Don't speak.
Okay.
And that was, why we stopped paying rent, because we were actually looking for a house, even when he gave us the 90 days.
Okay. So, Mr. Jackson, based upon what you just told me, so stop shaking your head, based upon what you told me, your landlord gave you 90 days notice that if you wished to stay on, he was raising your rent to $1,000 a month.
Yes.
And you started to look around for a new place.
Yes.
And the new places were very expensive.
Yes.
And you didn't find a place.
No.
So you decided to stay in this place.
No.
So what did you do?
We.
So if you didn't find a place
we decided
in December,
we was trying to stay there until we found a place.
I assume they paid rent in September.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
In October?
Yes.
Yes.
They paid rent in October.
Yes.
Good. And November?
November was the last month that they paid.
So they paid in November.
Yes.
So you stopped paying rent in December of 2021.
Yes.
No, you cannot.
Okay.
If I need you,
Yes,
I'll
ma'am.
come to you.
Okay, yes, ma'am.
Okay?
Okay.
Because so far he's doing fine. You stopped paying rent in December of 2021. Tell me why.
We didn't want to live there ourselves anymore either, but it was just a lot of things going on at the house. Like after my father passed away, and he first gave us the first eviction notice, because he gave us more than one.
Just a second.
Okay, I'm sorry.
We're skipping over.
Okay.
He didn't give you an eviction notice, I assume, until you stopped paying rent.
No, before December, he gave us like 3 of them, I think. I want to say 3.
Really?
Yes.
Why were you trying to evict them before?
They had torn up the carpet upstairs. It was a moratorium for evictions, but there was a stipulation that emergency evictions for nuisance tenants could be granted before then.
Is there any reason why you took up the carpets?
Yes, the same thing. Before he took over, everything was in the house before that, and we complained to the previous owner that the carpet was already dirty. They said that they were going to come and shampoo it, but never did. Like, we would walk and our socks would be black, our feet would be black, so we wanted to take the carpet up. It was dirty to us. And I myself actually told him about it. I went downstairs to his apartment, because he lived downstairs from us, talked to him about it. He came upstairs, and I showed him a section of the carpet that wasn't even connected to the floor. You can lift up the whole carpet, and like across a whole section of the wall. And then when I did that, he seen that the hardwood looked kind of decent, and then instead of putting new carpet on, he wanted the hardwood to get sanded down and just get stained and lacquered over.
So you took the carpet off?
Yes.
I believe you. Sounds right, Mr. Uno. Okay. And that was the reason that you used to try to evict them before?
Yes, that was the first one. But I don't agree with his statement.
Well, what statement don't you agree with?
Well, a number of things that he said. I didn't authorize him. We spoke. I asked him in the first meeting if there was anything that they wanted to have spruced up or anything as a good gesture, and they took it upon themselves to take up the carpet without my permission.
Okay, not a huge deal. Not a huge deal. You can use it as a huge deal if you want your tenants out, because you can re-rent that duplex for substantially more money.
It was more about their conduct, that they were being very disturbing behavior and just being off the wall. So I wanted them out for a lot of reasons.
Well, I know, but only one of them qualified under the eviction moratorium.
Yes, for emergency of dismantling the
Only
place.
one, and that would have been the carpet. Okay, Mr. Jackson.
Yes.
I'm back to you, sir. I haven't figured out yet. You stopped paying rent in December, and you moved out in what month?
We didn't move out until June.
June. So January, February, March, April, and May. Let's say 5 months' rent that you didn't pay, correct?
Yes.
Why?
Can I speak, Your Honor?
No, him. Tell me why you didn't pay the 5 months' rent, Mr. Jackson.
We just figured that, well, we didn't figure. We didn't want to pay him $1,000 because to us,
Okay, so
we felt
let's say you didn't want to pay him $1,000, even though you just told me finding another place would be more expensive, right? We said $1,200, $1,400, but you didn't give him $750. You gave him $0 for those 5 months. So I'm going to come back to you, Mr. Jackson. Does your wife receive disability payments because of her disability?
Yes.
Yes. How much a month?
That I don't know.
How much a month do you receive, Ms. Kelly?
$1,000.
$1,000. And did you continue to receive that $1,000 every month from December until June?
Yes, ma'am.
You see, certain things remain constant. Your disability payments remain constant.
Right.
If you live in an apartment and you have the same sort of income, then you pay rent.
Right.
And if you didn't pay $1,000, so I hear you. Well, that's what he said he wanted. And he's the landlord. And he's allowed to do that if you're going to stay in his premises. But you paid nothing, Mr. Jackson, and that's what I don't understand.
Well, the furnace was busted.
Just a second.
Yeah.
Miss Kelly.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
What? You paid nothing.
Yeah, nothing. Yeah.
Where did you move in June?
Moved in the same area, like kind of like probably 10 minutes away from that particular street.
Is it a private house or an apartment?
It's a house. Well, it's a duplex as well.
Duplex. So the same sort of setup. And how much rent are you paying?
Pay $950.
So almost as much as he wanted in his rent. But are you more comfortable in that unit?
Yes.
Okay.
My wife walked down there and asked, was he the landlord? He just said that he was the building manager. So nobody even got rent for the month of November when we lived there, not him or even the previous people, because he didn't even come upstairs to introduce us.
Well,
But,
I wouldn't complain about that, sir, if you're ahead of the game so far.
Isaac Uno claims his tenants, Envy Kelly and Kevin Jackson, owe for unpaid rent and property damage. Envy and Kevin claim Isaac forced them to leave.
Now, you saved over 5 months, let's say minimally $750.
$37.50.
$37.50. Now, Mr. Uno, the only question that I have to ask you is, Mr. Jackson and Miss Kelly say that they filled out some sort of forms for rent relief during COVID, and you signed it. And they say you received money from the state for any unpaid rent. Did you receive any money from the state for rent that they didn't pay?
No, I approached them with an application, but the program that funds the landlord relief for the moratorium was only open for 1 month, and I came and went and I missed it and I never got it. So I did have them fill out something. It was just a hardship thing, but they didn't give me the money for it. I never received anything.
So you didn't receive any money. So far, Miss Kelly and Mr. Jackson, you owe Mr. Uno $3,750 for rent that you didn't pay while you occupied his premises. You, your furniture, your children, I don't care what it is. That's what you didn't pay. And you can't save up your money and not pay your landlord. That's his business. Just like you work for Fridays and you get your pay when you're supposed to, that's his business. He bought a house. He was counting on the income from that house to pay some of his expenses, and you didn't pay it. Well, there's no question you have to pay it. Now you have a counterclaim. I've already gotten rid of child endangerment. This is 150 years old. Constructive eviction. So I'd like you to tell me your allegations of constructive eviction.
Is that like from him not doing anything to the apartment while we lived there?
I assume. You say you were constructively evicted.
Yes, he...
But you didn't leave.
Yes, he has a couple of text messages in here where he says that he actually came up to the apartment to check things. He brought up when he first got there in November, we didn't have a working toilet until...
Just a second.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
So before he bought it, is that what you're telling me?
I mean, not before, I'm sorry. When he got the apartment in November, the previous owners, we were trying to contact to see who we pay for rent.
Just a second.
Okay, yeah.
He bought the duplex in November of 2020.
Yes.
Is what you're telling me, Mr. Jackson, that certain things weren't working prior to his purchasing the property?
No, I'm sorry. I want to take that back. After he purchased it, we didn't even know he purchased it because he was living downstairs, and my wife walked down there and asked, was he the landlord? And he just said that he was the building manager. So nobody even got rent for the month of November when we lived there, not him or even the previous people, because he didn't even come upstairs and introduce us.
Well,
But,
I wouldn't. I wouldn't complain about that, sir. If you're ahead of the game so far. If you didn't pay rent for November, you didn't pay the prior landlord, and you didn't pay him. So far you're ahead $750. Okay, keep going.
To go back to the November, So during November, our toilet got stopped up, like right before Thanksgiving.
So shortly after he purchased it, he hadn't been up in the apartment, right?
No.
Just you, your wife, your teenage daughter, and the baby.
Yeah, and the kids.
Okay, and the toilet got stopped up, and
he brought in a plumber, and then the guy found out that my son put a little toy in there, and he actually got
so
the toy
the
out.
toilet was broken by your son. Okay, so now the plumber said, here's the toy. Kid threw a toy down the toilet. Not an unusual, and
then the very next month in December, my son didn't put anything down there. The toilet started acting up again. It wouldn't flush for like all the way up until the next year, and it never got fixed. But it was from...
Well, you had to have, sir, you lived there with 3 adults. So there had to be a functioning toilet in the house.
It wasn't functioning.
So where did you go to use a functioning restroom?
Her mom lived up the street from us, so sometimes we lived up the street, or sometimes we would just still use the toilet.
Okay. You owe him $3,750 for rent that you didn't pay. Counterclaims dismissed. We're finished. Thank you very much.
This court is adjourned.
I had to collect monetary judgment through the courts.
Him being the landlord, he left us like living in crappy conditions.
It was a unbearable situation that I was going through with the noise and the disturbances.
Yeah, he never came up there at all to fix anything.
And the destruction of the property.
He just started making up so many rules, to make it uncomfortable for us to live there.
Oh, it was, it's pretty quiet now.
That man is crazy. I'm glad it's over with.
You know what I think is interesting, Sarah, with these cases, we've had a lot of them. The forgiveness that the government wanted to show to people who were having trouble during COVID, work-related trouble, didn't have the same income, and didn't want to have a whole bunch of dispossessed homeless people. It came from a good place, as did some of the monies that were sent out by the government to sort of help people over a difficult time during the height of COVID. But then there are other people who suffer as a result of that, like a landlord who buys a property, a duplex property. Part of it is for income so that they can pay off mortgage, taxes, lawn service, whatever you have to pay on a house. And then the defendants, who really had no changed circumstances that they indicated to me. He was working, she was getting whatever she gets from disability, which is not insubstantial. I don't know if they get any other assistance for any of their other children, but certainly they moved into a place that's more expensive now, that's not far away. They just decided not to pay rent. And I don't think that that is the spirit of what either the federal government or the states who enacted it meant to happen, because the plaintiff owner of this property has rights too. Yeah. You've taken away a right of his.
I agree to an extent, but I also think that that's more a problem on the government's implementation of the moratorium in the first place. That's what ended up hurting the landlord. These people were simply taking advantage of a legal loophole that was created for them. He was in the restaurant business, which, as we know, was one of the toughest hit by COVID.
Right.
She was on a fixed income that wouldn't be enough to cover, well, barely enough to cover the rent on its own. And then they have to support themselves, feed themselves. They have 2 children. So I'm sympathetic towards the taking advantage of a legal loophole. So I don't know, if I was in your position, I might have decided differently.
Okay.
But that's okay.
All
We
right.
can agree to disagree.
That sometimes happens.
Her ex-boyfriend's brother, Cleefers McCowan Jr., for personal property and filing a false police report.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Case 2143, Simpsons versus McCowan Jr.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ms. Simpson, you lived with Mr. McGowan for, looks like 7 years is what you said.
Yes, ma'am. It was off and on.
What do you mean off and on?
Well, I had another residence as well.
Okay.
And
it's going to get more complicated, I see, than less complicated. You lived off and on, according to you, with the defendant's brother, who is now deceased. Yes. It is your claim at one point in your papers that you and the defendant's brother were married.
Yes, ma'am.
He passed away.
Yes, ma'am.
And it is your claim that the defendant owes you money. He was the executor of the estate, and he owes you money for property that he took from the house and for filing a false police report against you, I assume indicating that you took things from the house.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Mr. McGowan says that you and his brother were never married, while he indicates in his papers there might have been some sort of ceremony of marriage.
Yes.
That his brother somehow must have told him that he never filed the marriage license, so the marriage was never valid.
That's correct.
Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Well, let's go to that for a moment. Yes, it's sort of curious and takes me back to law school days. And believe me, that really tests my memory. Were you at the ceremony where your brother married the plaintiff?
No, ma'am, I was not.
When did your brother tell you that there was a marriage ceremony?
I probably heard it just throughout life.
You mean throughout life for how long?
From the time that he had any dealings with her.
So about 7 years ago?
Yes, ma'am.
So you asked your brother whether he was married?
Yes.
How long ago was this?
I would say 4 years ago.
Okay, so 4 years ago, you say to your brother, I understand that you, what's your first name?
Mona.
Mona got married.
Well, so he gave me an insurance document, and I was like, wow, what's going on? What about all this?
He gave you an insurance document that said what?
From the VA indicating that I was going to be the person that gets the money upon if he demise.
If he died,
right? And
you had a VA insurance policy.
Yes, ma'am.
With you as the beneficiary.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and so he showed you the insurance policy.
Well, he sent it to me in the mail.
Okay,
or email or electronic, and so I said, "Wow, what's going on?" So then I started to ask different questions, and he said, "Well, don't worry about that. We're not legally married."
No, you have to tell me. I said to him.
I said to him, so. Doesn't your wife
Isn't she the beneficiary?
I don't want to be involved in all this.
Right.
And he said, I am not married. We went through a ceremony, and you have 10 days to file the
marriage license.
The marriage license in Las Vegas.
Okay.
To solidify the marriage. And then he said, I never filed it. We are not married.
May I?
Just a second. Did your brother tell you that he had ever told Ms. Simpson that he never filed the marriage license?
No, we never had that conversation.
Okay, well, because you say in your answer, sir, that my brother was too smart for that, he never mailed in the license.
Well, he told me because there was a problem between these two. And so we talked about that, and he said, no, I'm not married to her. And he said, you have to file the document, and I never filed the document, and I have a copy of that right here.
Ms. Simpson,
yes, ma'am.
Tell me when this ceremony took place in Las Vegas.
April 2013.
Did you travel there with Mr. McGowan?
Yes, ma'am. We moved to Vegas together.
Who was at the ceremony?
It was no ceremony. What happened was I don't know what this is. What happened was we went to the Justice of the Peace, and the 10 days is not accurate.
No, don't.
I apologize.
Don't tell me.
We had 1 year to go to like a pastor or minister or something like that because we just went to the Justice of the Peace in Vegas. They give you a year to do it, whereas it's, I guess, what I think the term is officiant or something. Officiant has to do it so you can become married permanently.
So you knew that you were not legally married?
Well, it was legal, but it would be official if you don't do another step within a year. And
I understand that, but you never did the other step.
We didn't, only because he was sick, ma'am.
I don't care what the reason was. I don't care if he was watching Yellowstone or because it doesn't matter why.
I respect that.
What? You can get hooked on that.
No, yeah.
I understand.
So
no,
I don't care what the reason
right.
is. You knew that your marriage, because it wasn't confirmed, according to you,
Yes,
within a
ma'am.
year that you weren't legally married.
Yes, ma'am. And that
Okay, just a second. That's all I want to know. That makes my life much easier. Because, Mr. McGowan, I want you to listen to me very carefully. Under what you told me, under the events that you told me, you see, you should have kept your mouth shut.
No, it's okay.
No.
It's going to be okay in the end. It's going to make a lot of sense in the end.
No, I understand that it's going to make a lot of sense to me. We're going to follow the money. But I just want to tell you and the people who are watching this that when I thought about your answer, that you said your brother was too smart and didn't file the necessary document within 10 days. My view of that scenario was that she could still consider herself his wife. Because if he fraudulently, in an attempt to deceive her, didn't mail the marriage license in, she would be the beneficiary. I'm just letting you know that. You understand what I just said?
Yes, ma'am.
Because he committed a fraud on her. He would have committed a fraud, your brother, on her into leading her to believe that they were a married couple and they had the responsibilities and the benefits of a married couple. But she says she volunteered that she knew they weren't married.
Yeah.
So I don't even have to address that.
And it's okay.
Just a second. I know where I'm coming from.
Okay.
So Mr. McGowan, the person that you were involved in for a period of years, on and off, you had your own place, but he was ill for a certain period of time. Was your brother ill?
No, ma'am.
No. Just a second. Key says no. You say he was ill for a great portion of that time.
Met him.
Shh. Just a second. For a great portion of that time, and that you were his caregiver.
Yes, ma'am.
And you were paid as his caregiver by the government.
The VA, yes, ma'am.
By the VA, to be his caregiver.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, that would be inconsistent with being his wife, to be his caregiver. Because if you're a wife, you don't get benefits from the VA. If you are a non-relative and caring for somebody who requires assistance, you may get assistance. And how much was the VA? Just answer my question.
Yes,
this is not my first rodeo.
Okay, I understand.
How much was the VA paying you a month to take care of, what was your brother's first name?
Marcus.
How much were you being paid to take care of Marcus? Because you say that one check you didn't get because of him. It's part of your lawsuit, so you know exactly how much you were paid.
Ma'am.
How much?
$2,057.55.
A month.
Yes,
and when
ma'am.
did you start collecting that?
2014.
Woo! You are a legal stranger, so you must have filled out forms to say that you were married.
No, I was considered a family member. I was no longer considered the wife, but I was considered...
Well, you're not no longer. You were never his wife.
Ramona Simpson claims her ex-boyfriend's brother, Cleefers McCowan Jr., threw out her personal belongings. Cleefers is countersuing for damage and stolen property.
Okay, so there was a reason why you didn't continue to solemnize the marriage ceremony that you went through in 2013, because you started to collect $2,000 a month from the VA in 2014 that you couldn't have collected were you his wife. That's a yes.
No, it isn't, ma'am.
Oh.
Receiving the benefits from the VA, you have to be a family member. You have to be related to that person in order to get this stipend pay. It wasn't a regular VA payment, and it's for relatives. You have to be a relative for that veteran.
What are you getting? Oh,
yes, it's true.
Check that,
Full
Sarah.
of stipend pay for the VA, because we're both disabled veterans. It's not like I just had to do this. I loved him, and I cared for him, and he was sick the day I met him.
Just a minute, you both disabled veterans?
Well, my disability was not as crucial as his was.
How much do you collect?
I very minimum, because
Which I asked a question. That's a very minimum.
Yes.
It's not a number.
Yes, it's $300 and some change. But the thing is, Your Honor, may I speak, please? He was sick from the day that I met him, and I was taking care of him prior for that. This was his idea, because he was familiar with the veterans and the system. This was his idea that we can receive funds, and it stayed right in the household. We were living together. It was stayed in the household, and that's okay with
I
them.
thought you told me a moment ago that you had your own place.
No, not then, ma'am. Not then, when we moved back from Vegas, because we stayed in Vegas for approximately 3 years. When we moved back from Vegas, he had purchase of home and everything, and it was supposed to be okay. We were going to be together. But he started living another alternate life, which he was very familiar with because he's introduced him to so many people. I don't even care about that. I still continue to take care of Marcus. It was no longer a romantic
Just a second.
situation.
Now you still continue, you had your own place.
I lived both places because he needed me more there than he did when we was living together.
What kind of alternative lifestyle was he doing that he needed you there part-time?
He was seeing other people and
he was
stuff like
seeing
that.
women.
Pardon me?
He was seeing other women.
He was seeing other people, yes, ma'am.
Okay, so he was seeing other people. But you, let me finish.
Yes, ma'am.
But you continued to receive the $2,057. You knew you weren't married. That money was coming directly to you. It wasn't coming to him.
Well,
it was coming to you. At what address?
He was giving me a portion from his bank account, and then when we discontinued everything, there was nothing physical. Then I was receiving my full allotment at that point, but I was still taking care of him, taking him to the VA, taking him to the hospital.
Wait just a second. I don't care. Don't go like this and like this. He's a legal stranger to you, and you're getting $2,000 a month to take him to the VA.
Ma'am, he was not a legal stranger.
He was a legal stranger to you. Legal. He was not your mother, father, brother, sister, or husband.
Ma'am, he was a dear friend of me. He continued to be a friend, honestly.
Well,
and he knows that. We went to several places together.
I'm setting up for myself what is the actuality of the situation. Now, I understand that I was really not prepared for this scenario. I was prepared for somebody, quite frankly, Miss Simpson, who had been defrauded by his deceased brother into believing they were married. She took care of him when he was sick. And all of a sudden, now that he's deceased, his brother comes in, kicks her out of the house, and takes all of his property. That's the scenario. But now I understand that that is not the case, that you knew you weren't married, that for 8 years you collected $2,000 a month for taking him to the doctor's offices, to the vet, to taking care of him in the house, but you understood that he was seeing other people, that you didn't have an exclusive relationship. Now I understand it. And you did receive a certain benefit from that because when you moved back from Vegas, you went to your own place because he was having an alternative life that had nothing to do with you. At that point, was the money going to his bank account or yours?
It was going to his bank account, ma'am.
Okay. Well, you say that he notified the government. Part of your lawsuit is for 1 month's check that you say, or 2 months that you didn't get. And you say you didn't get it because he notified the VA or somebody notified the VA. I don't care who notified the VA. What I want to know is, with those checks immediately preceding Mr. McGowan's death, going into his bank account or yours that he had?
His. It was going into Marcus's bank account.
Okay, and he was giving you money from that bank account?
Prior to his death, yes, ma'am.
Right up to the time he got sick and died?
Yeah.
Okay,
yes,
and how much would he give you?
He would have given me $2,057. $2,000.
All right.
No,
okay,
you mean total?
No,
I'm sorry.
No, I get it. It was not what I thought, but I get it.
Ma'am, may I
okay,
please
money
say
owed for
something?
the return of property. What property?
The property, which is my funds. I have jewelry that was missing and clothing that I never received because he kicked out his niece and boarded up the house.
Just a second. Was your brother taken to the hospital?
Yes, ma'am.
On what date?
28th of August, 2021.
Okay.
He was nowhere to be found.
Just what?
He wasn't around.
Just a second.
I did that.
Just a second. Did you take him to the hospital?
I had his daughter to call an ambulance. I got to Marcus's house and I followed him to the hospital. Yes, ma'am.
Hey, well, you want to just answer my question? I actually understand the whole scenario. You understand that I do understand the money part. I get it. So when you say his daughter called the ambulance and you got over there from your house?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and who do you live with there?
My daughter and my son.
And in whose name is the lease?
My daughters, my son, and myself.
So all three are on the lease?
Yes, ma'am.
And how long have you had a lease at that address?
2017.
Okay, so we're talking about 5 years that you've had an alternative address. You have an answer for me?
There is a Veterans Affairs program of comprehensive assistance for family caregivers. It says $2,800 a month, but based on a fee schedule that can change. So the $2,057 fits within the range.
And does it define family members?
It doesn't define the family caregiver, only that the VA may appoint someone who's part of the primary family caregivers to the veteran, but it doesn't identify who qualifies as a family caregiver.
As a family caregiver. And that's the act that you were under. But you were not a member of his family.
Yes, ma'am.
You were not a member of his family.
Well, it
not
goes
a well.
further than that.
Not
Well-
a well. This is not a well. You're living with your daughter, your son, on a lease since 2017. You know he's got an alternative lifestyle that has absolutely nothing to do with you. He was giving you the $2,000 a month. I don't know why. I don't even have to get into
Right,
that.
ma'am,
But
it's
you
up
were
to
not
that individual,
But you
ma'am.
were not a family member. If this is for family,
It does go to the veteran to then give the family caregiver, though.
okay, but you are a legal stranger to him. So you must have filled out forms to say that you were married.
No, it's up to that. It's up to that individual, the veteran, and I know how the procedure goes. It's up to that individual. I was considered a family member. I was no longer considered the wife, but I was considered.
Well, you're not no longer. You were never his wife. So if he filled out a
I'm
form
okay
and he's
with that, ma'am, because I could have.
Okay, so
went
he had the
further.
right. You were never his wife. He had the right to board up the house, whichever it is, and you weren't living there for 5 years. You had a place. So if you had clothes there and your jewelry, what were your clothes and your jewelry there? If he was
Because
fooling around with other women, why would you leave your clothes and your jewelry in the house?
Okay, ma'am. The thing is, no one has came to the home as another woman in that home. I was always there. He has no proof or evidence that I was not there. So basically, I had their clothes there because I stayed there. I lived there.
Forget it. You were more than compensated with $2,000 a month. What's next? I don't believe that you leave any valuable jewelry at his house.
I was there most of the time, honestly.
You don't need valuable jewelry if you're taking care of a sick person.
Ramona Simpson is accusing defendant Cleefers McCowan Jr. of throwing out her personal belongings.
Okay. Do you have any of her property?
No, ma'am.
Did you dispose of any of her property?
I didn't. She had no property
Just
there.
a second. I don't believe she had any property there either, anything of value.
And I did.
Okay.
Can I?
Excuse me.
I did find what the VA considers a caregiver. So if you're a spouse, son, daughter, parent, step-family member, or extended family member of a veteran, or if you live full-time with them, or if you're willing to live full-time with them if they designate you as the family caregiver.
So technically,
if you're willing to live with the veteran full-time, you could be qualified as a family caregiver, but it's up to the veteran to declare their own family
caregiver if you live there full-time.
Yeah.
Yeah. But she stated if you were willing to, and I was always willing to.
Okay.
Because
good. I don't feel as if you were shortchanged, madam, at all. And I don't believe that you had anything of value in the house. So your case is dismissed. Now we're going to get to the second part of your claim. You say she took property from the house?
Yes, ma'am.
What property?
She took jewelry, guns.
What jewelry?
Chains, rings, cufflinks.
Show me.
Entire.
Show me. How am I going to figure that out? You have photographs of things?
Yes, I have some photographs here.
This is so sad.
So sad. You have to put a period and end it. You had a good thing going for 9 years.
Ma'am, the money was paid in the arrears, first of all. So me not getting paid for, and this is really not a big issue to me, what he's saying, because they're all lies, and I'll tell you the truth.
Just say, I'm not saying anything, madam. All I'm saying is you have no case, because I don't believe that somebody who lived in a lifestyle, as you've described, as you've described to me, which is you have your own home, where you're on a lease since 2017, where you said to me he had an alternative lifestyle, but I still took him to his VA appointments. I took him, and I was his caregiver, but I lived with my daughter and my son. I don't believe that you leave any valuable jewelry at his house.
I was there most of the time, honestly.
You don't need valuable jewelry if you're taking care of a sick person.
But
Can I see?
I was stating we're also friends, ma'am.
I've decided your case.
I respect that.
This is just what had happened to looking for everything that was taken in there.
I don't care. Who cares? What are you showing me? You're showing me that the place is a mess, that somebody went through it?
I'm showing you what...
I don't care.
Okay.
I don't care. Prior to his death, when had you seen your brother last?
I had seen him about 5 days prior to that.
You live close by?
I was living in San Diego at the time, and he lived in Highland, which is 89, it's 79 miles up the 15 freeway.
Okay, so 5 days prior to the 5 days prior that you saw your brother, when had you seen him before?
We see each other quite frequently. We have family barbecues, this, that, and the other. I'm retired. I go.
Okay, would you return these to him? These don't show me any jewelry.
Okay.
It shows me that the house looked like it was picked through.
Okay. Thank you.
What else?
So quite frequently.
That's it. Did you get a VA benefit from your brother for his insurance?
From the life insurance policy.
Yeah, that's from the VA.
Yes, ma'am.
And how much did you receive?
$2,600.
Who paid for his funeral?
I did.
How much was that?
11 or 1,200.
So you took some of the insurance money and paid for it?
Yes.
Did he have any other valuable asset?
He had quite a bit of stuff. It's in probate as we speak.
Oh, so case is in probate
It's in probate right now as we speak.
Oh, great. So I don't have to deal with it. Your case is dismissed. We're done. Thank you.
This court is adjourned.
You know what? I have a lot of respect for the judge, but she didn't listen to me.
Well, I'm happy that the judge made the decision that she made.
He's a habitual liar.
Thief. My brother died, and within a half a day went over and burglarized the house.
This is something that he can laugh about, and he's going to go and tell the whole world that I'm still a liar. I'm still a this, that, and the other.
There is quite a bit of items that belong to me that this person stole.
That you can love someone and not be married to them. You can help someone and not be married to them and making love to them. I was genuinely there to help Marcus because I love Marcus.
The devil. I don't want the devil, the devil.
He barred me from the funeral. I didn't fight it because the respect I have for his family and for Marcus. I could have went there. No. I said, you know what? I won't be there.
I hope that she crawls back in the rat hole she came out of and does whatever she does.
You know what was interesting in that case, Sarah? When I read the complaint and the answer, I had a whole different vision.
Me too.
Of what the arrangement was. And based upon what the defendant wrote in his answer, that his brother, with regard to the marriage, to his brother telling him, I'm too smart, I didn't mail in the papers.
Read like fraud a little bit.
Right.
But she was in on it. She knew. She didn't complete the steps.
She didn't complete the step for a different reason, but she knew
that they weren't legally married.
That they weren't legally married.
Which changes the whole game from a legal perspective.
Right. Certainly the fact that the case is currently in probate made my life a lot easier. Anyway, it should be a warning signal when you get married out there, folks, and you have a marriage license, because I performed enough weddings to know you have to seal it, sign it, put a stamp on it, and usually put it in the mail within 3 days of the ceremony. So brides and grooms, make sure you put it in the mail together, or watch the officiant put it in the mail.
Is suing her ex-boyfriend, James Stewart, for travel costs and a loan.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Hello, Judge. Case 2102, Peterson versus Stewart.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ms. Peterson, you and Mr. Stewart met online?
Yes.
You met Mr. Stewart, and according to your complaint, a romance developed, and there are two things that you believe, now that the romance is over, that he owes you. One of them is a loan that you made to him for $1,000. Now, Mr. Stewart does not deny that you gave him $1,000, correct?
No, ma'am.
Your defense is that it was a gift.
Correct.
And not made as a loan. Okay. On what date did you and Miss Peterson start to date?
We never dated. We actually wasn't through no dating site. Just somehow, coincidence, we came through.
Did you see her?
I met her once in person.
When?
When she paid for a hotel for my birthday.
Give me the date.
January 30th.
Of this year?
Yes, ma'am.
So you met for the first time in January of 2022. Tell me about the $1,000. If you're playing with your papers, you're not going to hear where we're going. Okay.
The $1,000 at that time, I was been struggling with heart disease, which I just got out the hospital for having a heart surgery last Friday. So financially, my dealership was a little bit under the burden. So I asked her if she would help me.
And when did you ask her? Was that in January?
No, ma'am. That's a couple months later.
All right. So that would be in March.
Yeah.
And it's the only time that you ever met her was in January.
I met her once, other than that, when she gave me the money. Other than that, it was just normally her texting me, how you doing? Do you want to meet up?
Okay. So you met personally twice.
Correct.
And after January, you didn't see each other personally, just by messages. And that's when you asked her for money. And you were going to tell me why in March you asked her for money. I understand that you just recently came out of the hospital. And while I'm happy to see you looking well and healthy, it's really irrelevant to this case.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So why did you ask her for $1,000?
Because she offered to help me.
No. Nobody offers to help you unless they know that you need help.
Well, it's in writing.
No. Nobody offers to help you unless you let them know that you need help.
I was kind of life coaching her. We both was going back and forth. We had an open line of communication, so I kind of got comfortable to ask. So I see what you're saying.
Got comfortable to ask?
She already gave me money before that $1,000. That's why I was comfortable.
Just a second. I'm talking about the loan.
Mm-hmm.
I want you to tell me, since you acknowledge that she gave you the money, tell me why you needed it.
Well, I needed it because I paid for the trip, which was $2,180, which she gave me $2,000 plus $160 more for luggage. Came to just shy of $2,400.
I don't understand what you're talking about.
Well, she's already came to me and gave me money for us to take this little trip together.
What does that have to do with this $1,000? That's not what I'm talking about.
Because she was supposed to come and reimburse some of the money because I paid already into the trip. So I was asking her for money.
Am I crazy? Did he start to talk about his business needing money? He has a used car business?
Yes.
Really, before you come on a program like this, you should really watch so that you would know that one of my favorite sayings is, if you tell the truth, you don't have to have a good memory, especially if you're smart.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you're not so smart, and within 3 minutes you tell 2 different stories, that, Mr. Stewart, is a phrase that you should learn to live by. If you tell the truth, you don't need a good memory.
That's not correct, Your Honor.
Well, that's only because you wouldn't know the truth, because you have been introduced to the truth.
He says, the $1,000 at that time, I was struggling with heart disease, which I just got out of the hospital for having a heart surgery last Friday. So actually, my dealership is a little bit under the burden, so I asked her if she would help me.
So you remember saying that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So that's different from she was paying me back. You just have to acknowledge that's different. Okay. And let me tell you what you swore to in your answer. She offered to help me catch up on my child support.
On a phone conversation, yes.
I just asked you one simple question, sir. You acknowledged she gave you $1,000. What was it for? So now I have 3 reasons. 1, your car dealership was a little bit of a burden. 2, she was returning your money to you. And 3, you were catching up on your child support. Yes. Those are the 3 things that I have in front of me.
Yes, ma'am.
Is it door number 1, door number 2, or door number 3?
Whichever one you would like, ma'am.
So far it's $1,000 for the plaintiff. Now, whether it was for school or whether it was for your children's support, she's not responsible for your children's support. You're responsible for your children's support. Have you ever met his children?
No.
She doesn't even know your children.
No.
Do you have a child support order?
No. She asked me to marry her, though.
Just a sec. I asked you a question,
yes,
not
ma'am.
her. Do you have children? The answer is
yes. I have children, yes, ma'am.
Yes. This is not a dance.
No, I'm just
This
saying.
is not a dance.
Yes, ma'am.
You lead, I lead, I always lead.
Yes, ma'am.
Later.
You had some trouble with your finances, and you had serious debt. What kind of work do you do?
I'm a credit collections agent.
Not a good thing when you're a credit collections agent.
Joy Peterson claims her ex-boyfriend, James Stewart, owes for travel costs and a loan.
Now, the children do not live with you.
They're above age. Yes, ma'am.
When you swore in your answer that you had gotten behind in your child support order, what child support order was that?
It's the last child because I got behind because I was out of work. So they're above age, but I owe a little arrears.
Okay, so that's the child support that you were behind. Had you been noticed to come to court on those arrears?
I've never been in contempt, no, ma'am. I've always kept a good standings with them.
Okay, but you're behind now.
Yes, ma'am.
You were behind then in March.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and you knew you were behind because?
I was on bed rest for 5 months due to a knee surgery and some heart issues.
Okay, did you request that your child support order that was on arrears only be stayed while you weren't working?
I got a new caseworker, wasn't willing to work with me at that time. So.
Okay, so there was difficulty. Your caseworker was involved in this child support order. That sounds better. And the child support order was in favor of the state?
I don't owe the state no money. I paid all fees off with them. I just owe the back child support.
To the mother of the children?
Yes.
Okay, $1,000. Now, I'm going to come to you. According to you, you gave the defendant $2,000 to buy travel tickets for you.
Yes, Your Honor.
When?
I gave him money in March.
At the same time that you gave him the $1,000?
No, ma'am. That was in April.
Show me proof of that. And I want to see $2,000 taken out from someplace for him to pay for these tickets. And they were tickets for you to go from where you live, which is where?
Springfield, Ohio.
To Miami.
Yes, ma'am.
The $2,000 was in March. What were you going to do in March?
In March, I gave him the $2,000 to purchase tickets because I asked him, can he get discounts for us to go to Miami because I was going to have surgery. So he told me yes, sure. So I gave him the $2,000 for that.
That's not.
Then he said, well, that's going to be more than that. I said, well, that's all I have for the tickets for me and my daughters. He said he wanted to go, so he was planning on going.
Mr. Stewart.
Yes, ma'am.
On what date did she give you the $2,000 to buy the tickets?
It was early March. She could.
Yeah, March, looks like March 25th. She gave you $2,000. And when were you supposed to go to Miami?
We were supposed to go July 4th, and she.
Okay, just a second. You're supposed to go in July. So you're talking about 4 months later.
Yeah, she canceled the trip.
Okay. When did she cancel the trip?
She canceled the trip about a month later.
So she canceled the trip in April?
Yeah, and it was a third party, so it's non-refundable.
I don't know that at all.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, just a second. So you're going to have to show me.
I didn't borrow it.
You borrowed the $1,000. I didn't say you borrowed this $2,000. She gave you money for a specific purpose.
Right, she went.
Don't speak. She gave you money for a specific purpose to purchase airline tickets.
For us.
Which you... I don't give a rat's behind for who. She gave you money to purchase.
As I did.
Airline tickets.
As I did.
This is not a dance.
No, I'm just
This
saying
is not
I did.
you lead, I lead, you... I always lead.
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely.
I always lead.
Yes, ma'am.
She gave you $2,000 to buy tickets. That you acknowledge. The trip was canceled 3 months before the trip. Now, you say they were non-refundable tickets.
Yes, ma'am.
Show me. I just want to see where you tried to get either a refund or a credit 3 months in. I don't speak. You have to show me, because you just said the tickets were non-refundable tickets, and I could neither get money back for them when she canceled it or a credit. And I said, in all that paperwork, show me.
It's just public knowledge on their website. I apologize, I do not have it.
It's not public knowledge on any website. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $3,000. $1,000 loan, $2,000 for the tickets. We're finished here. Thank you very much. Out!
This court is adjourned.
Out!
She wanted to go on a vacation.
Taking advantage of me.
She was being a little aggressive.
Don't even look that way.
Now, hopefully, we can just move on with our lives.
I think we should print that on cards to hand out to people as they leave here. If you tell the truth, you don't have to have a good memory.
Yeah, that was pretty funny.
That defendant, in the first 15 seconds, told 3 different stories about the same $1,000. Reminded me of a toddler when you ask if they had cookies and it's all over their mouth and they say, no, I didn't have chocolate, I didn't have candy. 15 seconds, 3 different stories. So if you tell the truth,
you don't need a good memory.
Not at all.
Case 2158, Smith versus Crosley. All parties, please step forward.
Justin Smith is suing his ex-girlfriend, Jessica Crosley, for an unpaid loan.
Miss Crosley, I'm going to start with you. You and Mr. Smith were in a romantic relationship for a period of time.
Yes.
From when to when?
I want to say it was about a year before my son was born. My son was born February 11th, 2019, and our relationship ended about 4 or 5 months after he was born.
And after you separated, according to what I read, you sort of remained friends.
Yes.
Great. You had some trouble with your finances, and you had serious debt. What kind of work do you do?
I am a credit collections agent.
Not a good thing when you're a credit collections agent. And this was after you had already been separated for a long period of time. And at some point, what I'm piecing together is you discussed your financial circumstances with Mr. Smith.
Yes.
And one of your options was to seek protection in bankruptcy.
Correct.
And Mr. Smith thought that that was a bad idea.
Yes.
So he suggested that you take out a loan, consolidate all this debt, which was on, I assume, on credit cards with very high interest. And since he had credit, he would take out the loan and you would pay that loan off, which was manageable every month. Is that generally what this is about? Yes.
His behavior had started getting irrational, scary, started calling me a lot, asking my whereabouts, texting me, driving by my house on several occasions I saw.
I'm still not understanding why you stopped paying on the loan.
Justin Smith claims his ex-girlfriend, Jessica Crosley, owes for an unpaid loan.
Mr. Smith did take out that loan, month and year.
March of 2022, this year.
What were the payments each month, starting in March or April, principal and interest?
He had told me that it was $500.
Told you they were $500. He took out that loan, and am I correct, Ms. Crosley, that you paid off your credit card debt?
Yes.
And you paid off your debt with the loan that he took out?
Yes.
And you did, in fact, create a situation where the money, because you were employed, would come out directly from your bank account to go to pay off the loan to his bank account.
Yes.
And you did that in what month?
That was started, I believe, at the end of April or beginning of May.
And how many such payments did you make?
Biweekly payments, I believe I made about 6.
Thereby acknowledging that this was a loan. At some point, you stopped making the payments. What month did you stop making the payments?
In July of this year.
Why?
So I had started seeing my current boyfriend.
This is not a social show. Just tell me why.
So I had to take a day off of work to file for an order of protection.
Why did you have to take a day off from work to file for an order of protection?
Because I was advised to by a police officer I spoke to.
Okay, and I assume against him?
Yes.
Okay, give me the incident.
Okay, so in July, when I started seeing my current boyfriend, Justin had expressed that he wanted us to get back together, and I had told him no, that was not going to happen. And then his behavior had started getting irrational, scary, started calling me a lot, asking my whereabouts, texting me, driving by my house on several occasions I saw. And then there was an incident on July 19th where I had allowed his mother to take my son to a play, and she was supposed to drop him off back to me. And instead of dropping him back off to me, she had dropped him off with his father at his work. And then I got a call from Justin yelling, saying, "Where are you? What are you doing right now?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm on my way back home. Your mom's supposed to drop off Braden." He's like, "I have Braden. I'll meet you at your house." So I said, okay. We got to outside my house, and then he pulled up next to me and then started screaming out of the car, like, "Where were you? What were you doing?" I was like, "I was spending time with Anthony, my boyfriend." And he's like, "I'm taking Braden. I'm not going to give him back to you." And my son's crying in the back seat. And I said, "No, you give him back to me. It is my day to have him." And he drove away. He later called me and said I could meet them at Dairy Queen. So I met them there. I got out of the car. I went up to my son. And as I was getting him in the car, Justin had walked up to my car and started yelling and swearing at me. And as me and my son started driving off, he threw a milkshake at my car, which scared me and my son very much.
Okay, good. And you filed for an order of protection. You had a trial on the order of protection,
Yes.
and the judge dismissed your order of protection.
Yes.
After the trial.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I'm still not understanding why you stopped paying on the loan.
So when I had lost my job.
You lost your job when?
The next day. The incident happened on the 19th. I had to take the 20th off to file for the order of protection. The 21st, I was let go.
Oh, that had nothing to do with you being let go. Nothing. I just want to know why you stopped paying on the loan. You stopped paying on the loan because you lost your job? Are you working now?
Yes, I just started working.
Well, did you start paying him back?
No. So
Why?
Also in July, when all these incidents happened, Justin had stopped paying for daycare, which was our agreed upon child support payment. We don't have a court order for child support, but he had been paying all of daycare. I cover all of his other finances.
So that was an agreement that you had, that he would pay for daycare?
Yes.
Okay. And he stopped paying in July.
Yes, he's started only paying half of daycare.
Okay, so let's go back. He started paying for half.
Yes.
How much was he supposed to pay per month?
$560 was the full amount of daycare each month.
Okay, and he had been paying that. In July, he cut it down to?
To $270, I believe.
80.
80.
Okay, so he wasn't completely not paying. He was paying part of it.
Correct.
Tell me why you cut the payments in half, because you have a counterclaim for that.
Yeah. So in July, we started a custody case for full custody of our son.
You're talking in July. Who started the custody case?
I did, Your Honor.
Okay. Did you retain a lawyer?
I did.
Is that case still ongoing?
It is.
Well, then I'm not entertaining anything about the daycare because you have that case in family court. The court there will make a determination as far as future child support and whether or not this daycare should have been paid. So you have no reason for not paying the loan.
I was planning on filing bankruptcy.
Okay, but you didn't. You didn't file for bankruptcy. You did the smart thing. How much is left on the loan?
It's in excess of $12,000 or $11,000.
What interest rate is on that loan, by the way?
36%, I believe. Current balance as of November 30th, $12,631.
How is a 30% loan better than her credit cards?
She had some loans in excess of 800%.
From whom?
Or over 500%. These were online lenders.
Oh, wow. Okay, you have a counterclaim. Harassment, daycare costs is out. Lost wages because you say you had to take a day off to file a protective order and you were fired? Nonsense. Harassment, let's hear it. And don't go back to anything that you told the judge during the hearing that you had where he dismissed your application for an order of protection.
Okay, well, the order of protection.
Okay,
that was...
They're just shh. Well, if that's the testimony, it's already been adjudicated. A judge, using the same measure of proof that I would use, dismissed your case. So I'm not relitigating that case. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $10,000. Thank you.
This court is adjourned.
I believe he was angry that I started a relationship with somebody.
I think the restraining order was part of her defense as to why she didn't want to pay me back anymore.
I was ready to file bankruptcy, and he had offered to take it out for me.
You know, at the end of the day, the loan is still agreed upon and still needs to be repaid.
I think that that's a good lesson, that you can't use the court systems and restraining orders to get out of a loan that you have really no excuse for not paying except for you lost your job. And I just think it's tricky. I think that a lot of defendants come in here and think that they can just say, I didn't have the money and so I don't have to pay it. But that's not the case.
What's most interesting to me is these 800% or 500% or 100% interest-bearing loans.
I know, it's something.
Where did that come from?
It's something I've seen recently in the past couple of years. It seems like every online shopping venue now has some form of loan payment or loan offering or sign up for our loan program. And I'd never seen that before. And if you don't read the fine print, you could get stuck in just...
is suing her ex-roommate, Adrian Carter, for property damage, breaking a lease, and a dog attack.
Court coming to order. All rise.
Be seated, everyone.
Hello, Judge. Case 2080 Baptiste versus Carter.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Miss Baptiste, you and Miss Carter were roommates.
Yes, ma'am.
From when to when?
From October 7th to April 1st. Actually, May.
And it is your claim that Miss Carter vandalized certain property of yours.
Yes, Your Honor.
Most specifically, a very expensive couch.
Yes, Your Honor.
Because you had an argument, and that during the course of this argument, her dog bit you.
Yes, Your Honor.
And for breaching the lease, because she left.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, but it was a good thing that she left, right?
Yes, ma'am.
You were happy that she left. Her dog bit you. She vandalized
Right,
your sofa. You were very
I was
happy
very
that
happy she left, yeah.
You were very happy. So we're going to eliminate that breach of the lease part.
No.
Oh yes, we're going to eliminate the breach of the lease part because you were happy that she left.
I didn't want her to live in the same situation as her, but being that the rent was so expensive, it wouldn't have been my best interest for her to leave.
It's with her to stay with her dog that bit you.
Right.
I mean, I don't want you to sound ridiculous to me, okay?
Right.
All right, let's not sound ridiculous to me. Normal person, if they were bitten by their roommate's dog, and if their roommate vandalized their property, that roommate would be happy to see them go.
But I'm not happy with the expensive rent by myself.
Well, of course, but your choice would be staying with her and her dog that bit you.
But if her name's on the lease...
Just a second. That's between her and the landlord. I just told you, I'm sticking with vandalizing, and dog bite. So tell me when this dog bite took place.
It's on March 29th.
What kind of dog was it, by the way?
It was a Belgian Malinois.
What do they look like?
It looks like a German Shepherd.
Is that what you have, Miss Carter? A Belgian
Yes, Your
Malinois?
Honor. Yes, Your Honor. A Belgian Malinois, like a police dog.
So it looks like a German Shepherd?
Yes, ma'am.
So it's a large dog?
Yes, ma'am.
And when you moved in together, you moved in with the dog?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. So tell me what happened March 29th.
Okay, so before March 29th, Adrian and I got in a petty argument. It was dumb. We made up. In the argument, she confessed to me that...
No, just a minute. You engaged in a petty argument, and then you made up.
Yes.
And the petty argument was on what date?
It was on the March 27th.
And you made up?
Yes.
Okay. On the 27th, what were you arguing about?
My dog tore up the carpet, and she sent this long paragraph, and we were just going back and forth, and we realized it was dumb, so we decided to drop it. And that's when she confessed to...
On the 27th?
Yes, ma'am.
So you were arguing about the dog, and then on the 27th, after you were over the argument about the dog, is that what you're telling me? Be very
ma'am.
careful.
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead.
She confessed that she gave the guy that I was seeing a lap dance.
And?
And I immediately cut all ties with her.
So you cut all ties with her how?
I stopped speaking to her.
Even though you were roommates?
Yes.
Okay.
After I stopped talking to her, social media posts were made.
By whom?
Adrian.
Okay. Social media posts were made. Do you have those?
No, I do not.
Do you have those?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Why don't you have them if this is your case?
They erase, but I have other things that I think you would want to see.
I'm going in order. This is a case, so don't try to creep into my mind. Even say in your complaint a couple of days later, there were things posted on social media. And is what you're telling me that they were erased?
Right, I didn't save anything that she posted.
Oh, never mind. I don't have to see anything, correct?
Correct.
So you didn't save anything?
No, ma'am.
Then you have no evidence of anything that happened
So
later.
I saw that she had no remorse for what she did. Then I made social media posts. Adrian was mad that I made social media posts. So the next morning, she's yelling at the top of her lungs at 10 in the morning. I wake up to see what she's yelling about. And she's just saying how I'm a and I shouldn't have posted what I posted. And we were just arguing about the situation, and I asked, how could she do this to me? It was a very heated argument. She was yelling at the top of her lungs. I was yelling at the top of my lungs. During the argument, her dog is going crazy. And while we were arguing, we were pretty close. The dog bit me, and I said, you need to get your dog. She said, no, your dog is good. And we continued to argue. The dog came to bite me again, and that's when I grabbed what was behind me, which was a paper towel holder, and I chucked it at the dog.
So the dog bit you on the arm?
Yes, ma'am, twice.
Okay. I would like to see a medical report on that.
Okay. All right, I have a photo of the bite, the antibiotics, and then this is the report.
Would you show this to Ms. Carter, please?
Your Honor, I know she has a video of the entire incident, if you'd rather.
It's not her obligation to prove your case, as my law clerk so aptly told me in the last case. Not her obligation, it's your obligation. Okay. So, go ahead.
After her dog bit me, I immediately grabbed my dog and I go to the hospital. I filled out
What kind of dog do you have?
I have a Doberman.
Where was your Doberman when this was going on?
He was in the cage, and he's still a baby as well. So I went to the hospital, got treated. While I was at the hospital, Adrian called the police, and she said that I attacked her dog.
Don't tell me what she said to the police unless you have a police report.
Yes, ma'am, I have a police report.
Then I'd like to see the police report. That's an official business record.
So this is the first police report for the dog bite.
Okay, go ahead.
All right, so April 19th, this day, Adrian knocked on my door.
No, April 19th? Where was April 19th? I thought you moved out on April 1st.
No, she moved out on April 19th.
So is what you're saying after all this altercation, she moved out?
Yes, ma'am.
And stayed in the apartment with her dog from the 29th to April 19th?
Yes, ma'am. And I went to a friend's house the day the dog bit me, and then I went home for a week, and then that's when I came back, and this second incident happened.
So after the dog bit you, you did not go home. You took your dog and left.
Yes, ma'am.
And stayed at whose house for a week?
I stayed at a friend that lives an hour away from my current apartment.
On what date did you return?
So I stayed one night at a friend's house, and then I returned, and then I went home for a week. So
when you went, stop playing with papers.
Yes, Your Honor.
When you went home for the day, was the defendant at home?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you have any conversations with her?
No, ma'am.
Just stayed out of her way and packed a few things and left?
Yes, ma'am.
And you went to stay?
At home in Alabama.
With your family?
Yes, ma'am. Until things cooled down, basically.
Okay, and when did you go back?
I went back, I believe, April 17th.
And what happened when you went back on the 17th?
A few days later, April 19th, Adrian was knocking on my door at 9 a.m. in the morning saying that I need to come to the leasing office because there's a new roommate here. I told her no, and then that's when she started threatening me and calling me all these kinds of names. So I take my dog again, I go outside, and I call an officer, and that's also when I called my mom, and she convinced me to go up there to speak with the new roommate to see, you know, who they were.
What new roommates? Just a second.
She tried to get 2 young girls to replace her on the lease.
And it was unsatisfactory?
Yes, ma'am.
So far, I have a dog bite and
yes, ma'am.
Couch.
So after I said no to the 2 roommates, one didn't have a job, they looked young, I said no. I went back home. 10 minutes later, Adrian...
Home? You mean to your folks'
To our
house?
apartment.
Oh, to your apartment.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
So 10 minutes later, Adrian comes in. I was in the room with my door locked. I hear Adrian yelling. I hear her throwing things. She's saying, I can't believe you did that. You really just did that. I don't care. I'm still moving out. I'm still leaving. I'm not paying rent. Blah, blah, blah. I didn't come out the room because last time it got crazy, so I just said I would let her do what she does, and I will let the authorities handle it.
She did come out the room, Your Honor.
When I finally came out the room, which I have a video, and came out, she had moved the couch in front of the door so I couldn't get out of my room. And
well, how did you get out?
I jumped over it. And the trash can was flipped upside down. I have pictures of all the damage that she did to the house and videos.
Well, I'd like to see them, please. And I would like to see the damage to the couch, which is your major complaint.
Yeah. Okay, so this is the damages, and then I have a video of the entire incident right here.
Want to tell me how that happened?
I did put chips and items that wasn't wet on the couch out of anger. I shouldn't have did it, but I did do it. And I didn't put liquid on it or anything. Literally,
That's not true, Your Honor.
Don't speak. You had no right to even attempt to destroy it.
At all.
Later.
So at that moment, I was like, you know what? I'll just do it myself so we can stop the confrontation. So then that's when the argument started, and he thought that I was kicking him out, which I never told him he couldn't come over, never told him he couldn't be a part of anything.
It's a failed business venture where you both expect.
It's not a
hey,
business venture.
this is not a tea dance.
Brooke Batiste claims her ex-roommate, Adrian Carter, owes for couch damage and a dog attack.
By the way, did you have any unreimbursed medical bills as a result of this dog bite? That's either a yes or a no.
No, ma'am.
When did you purchase this couch?
I purchased it the day we moved in, so it was October 7th.
How much did you pay for it?
I paid $2,200 in total, and Adrian and I were paying on it a little bit in the beginning, but there came a time where we had to make the final payment on it, which was $1,200. When we had the argument, she didn't pay anything, so I had to pay it all by myself. And the couch is in my name.
Did the couch remain?
Yes, ma'am. The couch is at the house.
What does it look like now?
It's black, but there's it's an odor coming from the couch, and there's some stains on it.
Do you have a picture of it, what it looks like now?
No, ma'am. I just have the pictures that I gave you.
Okay, but you're still using the sofa. The answer
it's
is
a smell. No, ma'am. I don't sit on it anymore because there's a smell.
So why don't you get rid of it out of the apartment?
I'm moving October 6th, and that's when I plan to get rid of it.
But you've been using it since April.
It's just been sitting there, Your Honor. I haven't had
sitting
time.
in your apartment since April.
Yes, ma'am.
April, May, June.
I just haven't made the time to get rid of it because I know I'm moving soon, and that's when I plan to get rid of it.
I wouldn't keep something in my house that smelled.
I work a lot, and
Would you please show this to the defendant? Want to tell me how that happened?
I did put chips and like items that wasn't wet on the couch out of anger. I shouldn't have did it, but I did do it. And I didn't put liquid on it or anything. Literally,
That's not true, Your Honor.
Don't speak.
You can get a napkin and wipe it off. But that's my couch too. Maybe I didn't pay the whole thing on it, but I've made payments on that couch, and I decided not to do that full payment that she did, which was $600, because she was irresponsible and decided to rent a couch and found out that that couch was whatever amount. I made payments on that couch, and I have proof for it.
That's okay. You had no right to even attempt to destroy it.
At all.
At all. You had no right to do that.
Right.
Because that devalued the sofa.
I agree.
Okay, good. Okay. I'm actually finished with you.
Your Honor, can we please go back over the lease portion of this?
No.
Can my mom speak about what happened?
No, I said no. When there's that kind of acrimony, I actually think that before somebody gets seriously injured, when you have two large dogs and two people with hot tempers that can do this, it's a very, very good thing that they no longer live together.
Being stuck with a rent and
Just a second. I've just answered you. This is not a back and forth.
Yes, ma'am.
On the dog bite, I am awarding you $1,000. It looks as if part of it was a black and blue mark. Certainly, I can't blame the dog for trying to protect its owner, but she's supposed to have control of her dog all the time.
And she shouldn't start arguing.
This is not a tea dance. I'm not asking you anything. And I'm awarding you $1,200 for the sofa. That's $2,200. Judgment for the plaintiff. We're finished. Thank you very much.
Court is adjourned.
She just did something messed up, and I cut her off, and she didn't like it.
I literally cut her off. She's just mad that she's cut off.
She's delusional. She's delusional.
She's childish. She's irresponsible, and I was just sick of dealing with someone draining.
Just don't get roommates with your friends. Just move in by yourself.
I'm happy.
You had a question about the lease.
I did. So I agree that it was best for the acrimonious situation for them to separate and not to live there. So I understand your judgment saying it was better for you. You got the good end of the stick on that she left. However, the law, if you breach a lease, she did get stuck with a higher portion of rent because her roommate, although a negative situation that should have probably ended right when it did, she was stuck paying her half as well. So I thought you should have at least heard her claim on the breach of a lease, because then anyone could just say, oh, well, I don't like the situation and I feel like leaving would be a better thing, and stick their roommate with their portion of the rent. And that's not what the law says.
Well, that's true, except that this wasn't just a situation where parties weren't getting along.
Mm-hmm.
There's no question that she was nipped by the defendant's dog. Well, I wouldn't want to stay in that situation anyway.
Well, that would give her the right to maybe leave without paying her half of the rent, but that's not what happened.
It's also sort of acknowledged that the defendant brought two other people to take over her piece of rent. And it was in the papers, and the plaintiff did not...
She did say that she was the one that said no.
She said, I don't want those two people. Well, then the onus really falls on her to mitigate her damages. And she had no proof that she went forward to try to get another roommate. Between the two of them, they may have had an agreement, but the dispute over rent really is the defendants and the landlords. She doesn't pay her rent, and if the plaintiff pays her half of the rent, the landlord is free to go against either or both of them.
Sure, because both their names were on
right in the lease.
Understood.
Case 2083, David versus Baroon. All parties, please step forward.
Joseph David is suing his former friend, Jonathan Borum, for podcast equipment.
Mr. David, your claim that the defendant has acoustical equipment that you purchased for what looks to be a joint venture in Mr. Borum's music podcast.
Yes, ma'am.
You were making this music podcast in the basement of your house?
Yes, Your Honor.
Starting in what year?
This year of March.
And Mr. David, you were friends, you knew each other, and you knew he was in this business. I don't know, what is your business?
I deliver bread. I'm a bread vendor.
What kind of interest do you have in music? Because that's what he was doing.
Well, me and Jonathan have known each other for 20 years.
Jonathan and I have known each other.
Jonathan and I have known each other for 20 years, and he's always been in the music scene. He's an artist himself.
Well, that's what I gather. What about you?
I was just a supportive friend in it.
Okay, well, clearly you spent some money on music equipment, so it was more than being a supportive friend. If you were just being a supportive friend, then you made a gift to him of this music equipment.
No, ma'am.
You decided you wanted to be part of this music podcast. That's what you said.
Correct.
When did you make that decision?
Sometime mid-June, after I had...
June of this year?
This year, correct. I had received a small amount of money, and I was able to...
From where?
A settlement from
From
an
what?
injury, car accident.
Okay, how much did you receive?
A little under 50 grand. And I seen an opportunity for me to invest and help out and help a friend and be able to invest into something that if we blew up one day, I could receive, royalties from and money back in return. And
Did you have a written agreement with him?
We did not have a written agreement.
Well, I'd like to know what the agreement was.
So he was also in the car accident with me as well. And so he's got a settlement coming. He told me, this was all verbal, that once he received that money, he would pay me back at least half of the equipment.
So you would have a joint venture and he would pay you for half the equipment you purchased?
This was at the beginning, correct.
Do you remember, Mr. Borum, that conversation?
No, ma'am, Your Honor.
Were you in the automobile accident with
Yes,
him?
ma'am, Your Honor.
You did not receive a settlement. Is there any reason?
We're still going through the court process.
Okay, so you're going to trial.
Actually, that's what it was set to go to trial because I didn't get the offer that my lawyer put in. So it's going to trial on my side, but on his behalf.
No, he's already settled his case.
Yeah, mine's not settled yet.
Okay. You indicate what you want is your equipment back.
No, I'd like the money back.
No, well, you get your equipment back. If it's yours.
I want the money. I don't trust that he will give me the equipment back in good condition.
Let me explain this to you, Mr. David. If that's what you want, then I'm going to let you withdraw this case and go back to small claims court. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? I'm going to dismiss your case without prejudice, which will allow you to go back to your small claims court, or do you wish to proceed with it today?
I wish to proceed.
Great. Why did you say, I'll do the editing myself?
Because he was yelling at me and I told him...
What was he yelling at you about?
Because he said that the product wasn't up to par. He said...
Just a second, Mr. Borum, this is your business.
Right.
Will you tell me, did you think the product was up to par?
Joseph David claims his former friend, Jonathan Borum, is wrongfully keeping his podcast equipment.
When you decided to enter this, according to you, agreement, that you would be in a joint venture, when he got his money, he would pay in his half of what the equipment costs, which you indicate, I think, is about $4,400.
Correct.
What I gather is there was a session set up that was supposed to take place in your basement.
Yes, ma'am.
And when was that?
I believe it was around like early June-ish.
Okay. And you have proof of the value of the equipment, I assume,
Correct.
and exactly what equipment there is.
Correct.
Is there, Mr. Borum, a dispute about what equipment he purchased?
Is there a dispute? Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
because he has a receipt. I just want to know if I have to go into this.
Well, on the receipt, he purchased it on his card, but we're friends. We were going in together, so he bought it on his card because he had the money.
Oh, just a second. I understand that, Mr.
I
Borum. I'm
understand.
asking you whether there is an agreement as to what the pieces he purchased on his card.
Yes, ma'am. As far as the agreement, I'm not understanding the question.
Okay. What pieces of equipment did he buy that's in your basement?
Cameras.
Camera.
Cords.
Cord.
And probably the Black Magic.
Black Magic?
Black Magic, yes, ma'am. It's a device that works.
Do you know what he's talking about?
I do.
Anything else that's down there that you purchased other than those 3 items?
Yes, ma'am. In total...
What? Shh, look at me. Tell me what else.
In total, there's 2 Panasonic cameras.
Are there 2 cameras
Yes,
that he
ma'am.
purchased? 2 cameras.
Can I look down for...
I can't hear you if you're mumbling.
There's lighting, 3 lights. There's
3 lights. Did he purchase 3 lights?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
wireless mics.
How many?
It was a set of 2.
Did he purchase those?
Yes, ma'am. And not to correct you, but we purchased those.
No, you didn't pay for it.
I gave him the money.
Just a second.
I gave him cash.
Oh, you did? Well, you're going to show me proof of that in a moment.
Well, I don't have proof that I gave him cash. No, ma'am. Because we were friends, so...
Just a second. Okay. You have no proof? Did he give you cash?
No, ma'am. He never gave me a dollar.
Fine.
Not a penny.
Okay,
not a
let's
dime.
go. We have 3 lights, 2 mics. What else?
HDMI cord.
He has a cord.
Blackmagic ATEM.
He has that.
Picture, 256 gigabyte SD card.
What is that?
It was
Memory card.
It's a $50 memory card. It adds up.
Let's go.
The card reader, 20-foot cables, a stencil, and a table.
Just a second. A stencil and a table. Describe that.
It's for the logo that we made for the podcast. I purchased the stencil for the logo.
How much did you pay for that?
Between that and the table is $80.
Let's stay with the big ticket items, sir, Henry.
I was adding
Great.
everything.
Okay. Are we finished with the list?
Yep, that's all.
Very good. How much did you pay for these things minus the $50 card in total? Show me.
Minus the $50.
Yeah.
$43.50.
Okay. And all of that is in your basement now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And what happened, according to what I read, there was a music session scheduled. And at the time that there was a music session scheduled, your daughter had COVID.
Yes, ma'am.
She lives on top of the house. Okay. And how old is she?
That was in July. She's 10 months now, so probably about 8 months.
Okay. And she's cared for by both you and your wife. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And I gather, Mr. David, that when you found out that there was COVID in the house, you didn't want to go into the basement.
Correct.
And that was sometime in June.
Correct.
Okay, can you tell me about that conversation?
Well, he told me that she had COVID, and then he said that his fiance may possibly have it, and he may possibly have it. He even took off work, and I filled in for him at work for 3 days because he may have had COVID or not, and he said he wasn't
Well, he
feeling
wasn't. He didn't want to go in and risk it.
Correct. So I told him I do not want to continue with this interview. He said he would continue on.
You mean
with
the interview that was supposed to take place in the
Correct.
basement?
Correct.
How much after, Mr. David, did you find out that the infant had COVID and that Mr. Borum and his wife were both exposed? Was the video podcast supposed to be made in the basement?
2-3 days.
Is that correct, Mr. Borum?
From anywhere between 2 to 5 days, ma'am.
And when Mr. David told you he didn't feel comfortable coming into the house, what did you say to him?
I said, okay, I would have someone else fill in his position because I understood why he didn't want to come over.
Okay, and did you have someone fill in his position?
Yes, ma'am.
And then what happened, Mr. Borum?
The episode got done, and it wasn't up to par with Joseph's standards. So that's when the argument begun.
Okay, and the argument was what?
The argument was the guy didn't do it right, so it was a lot of bickering. So I told Joe, you know, I just do the editing myself. And he took that as I was cutting him out.
Okay, so he was supposed to do the editing.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and why did you say, I'll do the editing myself?
Because he was yelling at me, and I told him...
What was he yelling at you about?
Because he said that the product wasn't up to par. He said...
Just a second, Mr. Borum, this is your business.
Right.
Will you tell me, did you think the product was up to par?
I did, but I thought it was up to par, but I took his recommendation because I brought him in for production. So I was like, okay, if you don't feel like it's up to par, let's figure it out. But then we kept going back and forth. So at that moment, I was like, you know what, I'll just do it myself so we can stop the confrontation. Because you didn't want to tell the guy what he did wrong. So then that's when the argument started, and he thought that I was kicking him out, which I never told him he couldn't come over, never told him he couldn't be a part of anything. I just told him I wasn't going back and forth because that's why I brought you in for that.
May I see the credit card statement from the purchase of this equipment? And Mr. Borum, I want to see where you took out $2,200 from in cash. I want to see where you took. You said you paid him half.
$2,200. I didn't pay half.
Well, what'd you pay?
I never stated that I
Just
paid half.
shh. If you're partners, that's what you have to pay. How much did you give him?
I gave him money here and there, like on all the...
That doesn't help. That doesn't help me, sir. That doesn't help me. These are bank statements.
I didn't think I had to keep a record if we was best friends for 15 years. That's just...
I can't help you, sir. I can't help you if you say you paid a little bit here and there. I can't help you with that.
Never gave me a dime.
So when you state that if you're a friend, you're doing this to help me out as a gift for what I got going on,
a gift.
and then you try to bring it and take it back from me.
Mr. Borum, how many podcasts have you made since June?
Since June?
Yeah.
I believe we on episode 15, 16, something like that.
15, 16. Successfully.
Yes, ma'am.
And you intend to do this for profit?
Yes, ma'am.
Have you so far seen any profit?
Not as now, because you know you gotta build up.
Just a second. So not as of yet.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you work?
Yes, ma'am.
Does your wife work?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so you have two incomes in the house.
Right.
And this is a side job for you.
Correct.
But you have to buy your own equipment because he's coming to get his equipment. That's going to be the court's order.
So if
it's
I
his equipment. It's his equipment. The equipment
so he can't
that
gift it to me. That's what he told me he was doing because we was friends. And he appreciated what I was doing.
This is why we're here.
Right.
And now I heard you, and I heard him, and now I'm ruling. I am making an order that he, within 5 days of today, with a marshal or a sheriff, will come and pick up his equipment.
So you giving him my equipment back is tarnishing what I got going on.
I'm giving him his equipment back.
But he never used it, though.
I don't care whether he used it or not. It was a failed business venture where you both expect.
It's not a business venture.
This is not a tea dance. He's getting back his equipment. You and your wife have a side business going. Go buy equipment. Do you understand? 5 days, wait outside. You'll get a copy of my order. You can go get your equipment. Thank you very much.
This court is adjourned.
A 15-year friendship, obviously it don't matter. You know what I'm saying?
Eventually, you see the real person in somebody. That's all I can say.
You could be friends with somebody 100 years, and they gonna change.
Yeah, I mean, I thought I'd had a good friend for a while, but really...
Man, the show gonna go on, man. Yeah, y'all know, make sure y'all watch, tune in.
I was just tolerating a really bad person.
I've had understandings with my friends similar to what the plaintiff and defendant has. One of my friends will stay in my apartment from time to time for a few nights, and I always make sure, because you never want a holdover tenant or a friend staying longer than you had anticipated, and I'll text and I'll say, okay, you're good to stay there Thursday and Friday night. Let me know if there's any problems, but you got to be gone by 9 a.m. on Saturday. Just to memorialize the understanding that I think I have, even with friends. It's just always smart to have some sort of record of a business, an understanding, a trade-off. I just think that it's good practice, even if it's just a text, something to memorialize what you believe the understanding to be.
I agree with you. Yeah. And that would make my job easy, but would eliminate this TV program.
Potentially.
Potentially.